What's up, everybody? Quick off-schedule jockey spotlights. Cardinal Senior Benefits brings the best options to old people when they're dying or in case they might die, and giving them final expense insurance help and guidance. Super awesome company. Check it out. Back to work. Okay, so now we're gonna do the mid rolls. Yo, let's get off schedule real quick. Guys, Will Metscher is so damn good at his job. He needs more people to help. If you want to learn to help people change their lives or continue to do so, if you did that when you were at, selling books and shit, you guys need to reach out to us. We'll put you in touch with Will. He'll hook it up. Well, that's a loud pop. Hello, everyone. Andres Gambo here, and we are at episode 170 of the Ponytails Podcast. Welcome. If you sold books, you probably are aware of what the Ponytails Podcast is, but in case you don't, we interview alumni of Southwestern Advantage. If you don't know what that is, if you never sold books, I'll fill you in really quick. Southwestern Advantage recruits college kids to sell books door to door. These books help families with homework and with learning colors and reading and getting into the SATs and blah 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 blah. That kind of stuff. It's kind of like a Cliff Notes, but for homework subjects stuff. And anyway, these college kids go and sell this door to door for 80 hours a week from Monday through Saturday from like 7:30 in the morning to like 10 p.m., which is outrageous. And myself and pretty much all my guests, except for maybe a couple, have all done this or have been involved with the company in one way, shape, or form. So what we do here is we have them share some stories about their experience doing that, how that affected their life positively, negatively, neutrally, and then we share some hilarious stories at the end. So stick around for the episode. You're going to get to see and hear some really fun stuff. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher, Google Cast, wherever you get your podcast, be sure to leave us a review. That means a lot to us, and it actually helps us a ton with the algorithm of the podcasting world. If we want to get more found by more alumni, especially, but really just people in general who want to hear about entrepreneurship and just some fun stories and some crazy adventures that college kids get up to. It means a lot to us if you could do that. If you could leave us a review, and you can find ways to do it. Just go to our show, go to the Ponytails Podcast on the search bar on any of the apps you're listening to. Once it pulls up the show, you can click on it, scroll all the way down. It's usually towards the bottom. You can leave a star rating, and then you can also write one in some of the apps depending on what you're listening on. If you're on YouTube and you're watching us, or if you're on Spotify and you're watching us, make sure you guys hit subscribe, download, hit to that little bell there that lets you know when we release new episodes. Typically we release them Thursdays and Sundays, but sometimes it varies, just kind of depends on the situation. Sometimes it's Tuesdays, sometimes it's every day. But either way, for you guys to know exactly when that happens, make sure you go and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications to be able to do so. A couple of announcements of what's happening currently in the world of Ponytails Podcast and in the world of alumni. We are still promoting when we would love for you to sign up for our newsletter. Totally. If you don't want to, that's totally fine too, obviously. Insert a buying atmosphere here. But our newsletter is called The Cult. We are going to be releasing that sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly, depending on what's going on in the world of Southwestern alumni. If you guys want to stay connected, that's probably going to be the best way. We're not going to give your email away to anybody. We're not going to sell it for data or any of that stuff. But it's just a way for us to let you know episodes that are coming up, guests that are highlighted, a little bit about what some cool alumni are doing in the community. It's called The Cult. So go to the ponytailspodcast.com and you can find The Cult there. COLT. Everything's horse themed here, but cult. On on to the guest for today. Oh man, I have Noelle Sporer here with me today, and she is a badass. I'm so excited to have this conversation, you guys. We are working together on bringing you some stuff. We'll give you some more details about that during the episode, but basically, Noelle is a specialist in social media paid advertising. So this is very, very relevant in 2022. It's been relevant for the last couple of years. And this is something that Southwestern Advantage, if you're an alumni, did not teach us to do. This is something that they weren't specialized in. And so using the power of social media to really generate leads, create a brand, and just really have an outward reach for your business is giant. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, or at least I'm hoping to anyway. And so by the way, we don't do any pre-approach or any like research on our guests prior to that. I'm just telling you from my experience of talking to Noelle, that's kind of what we're probably going to be talking about at some point during this. But to give you a little bit more details about her that we actually did ask for, we only asked for the following things: the number of summers that they sold. So it was 4 summers that Noelle sold. She was part of the Eagle Blitz organization. She's also doing some music making and of course running the creative space business, which is a genius thing to get into right now. She sold from 2016 to 2019. Florida State University Seminole. Boo. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Sorry. No. And she's from Bradenton, Florida. And that is her hometown. Now, the last bit we want to share with you guys is we started to do this recently where we share our guests' favorite scroll on the Og Mandino book, the Bible of one of the things that would make the argument that what we were doing was a little culty, but not too much. The execs were probably worse. And when I asked Noelle if she wanted to do some, she said absolutely not. So her favorite scroll though is number 2. I will greet this day with love in my heart, which I mean, what an amazing way to live your life. So here is our little Ponytails podcast. Boom. What is up?
Hey, Andres. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. No, thank you. Thank you for being here.
For sure.
You don't need to thank me. Nobody wants to hear me talk for, an hour to 2 hours. This
I
only
think your
works because
voice
of
is
y'all.
so calming. I can listen to it for hours. No, that's genuine too. I know sometimes it sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but I'm not. I swear. I
No, I
swear.
believe it. Unless you're being sarcastic twice, in which case that's also
No.
great.
I couldn't do it
uh,
twice. I'm not
it's
funny enough.
fair enough. No, I appreciate the compliment. My book's it's going to be released in audio version as a podcast itself,
Ooh.
and so I'm doing the reading for it. So each episode will be a chapter, and it gives me a lot of courage that you say that. Then that my voice is calming. Because if you want to listen to it more, just go check that out.
Listen to it for hours, y'all.
Oh man, I appreciate that compliment. Now you got a whole setup here for you guys listening that aren't watching. You have like a full blown setup as well. Look at you go.
Yep. I'm a musician. And honestly, I wanted to plug a little earlier what happens. I have my boyfriend, Paul Ferreira, calling me from the Southwestern company right now because he works as a senior accountant for Advantage. So if you guys were
Oh,
hearing some really annoying, interrupting phone call just now, that is
I
who is
see.
calling, who
He
just hasn't
he
been on the
doesn't
podcast.
know.
He doesn't. I texted him, you see, but sometimes with men, and I'm sorry if you're a man listening to this podcast, but it's just like, oh, I told you this morning, and then anyway.
This is 100% accurate.
Awesome. Well, I just
I
wanted to
mean,
make sure.
it's fair, but you sound great. This is like you got the whole setup, and
Yes.
now you do music. I guess I didn't ask you this, but feel free. We've had this before. I don't know. It might take a little bit of setup, but people I'm sure would be willing to wait. But if you want to sing or play something throughout this, let me know. We had
Right
David Thomas on
now.
here, and he did that. No, we don't have to do it right now. I'm just saying, if the mood strikes you later, we might. Stick around. See if this.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, the other night, well, I do have this set up, and thank you for acknowledging it. I've got a whole studio in my office. Technically, it's kind of the same thing because with habits, as we know, and I still follow all of this philosophy from books, like
Nice.
your environment does matter. So if you put things like instruments in your line of vision when you're doing other things, or kind of something like a water bottle because you need to drink more water, it's only going to help you keep up with
That's
those
right.
habits. So that's what I do.
100%.
So
Well done. That's so cool. Now, okay, so let's jump into this thing. You're drinking some wine? Did I get that correct?
I am drinking some rosé. I actually in the last couple months just got into drinking wine. I never really drank before the last
Oh.
couple months. I have,
Okay.
but like not. I never really enjoyed it to the extent that other people ever did.
It's like a acquired taste sometimes for some people. I feel like
Mhm.
I live in Oregon, so there's a ton of wineries or vineyards out
Yeah.
here, and it's hard not to be a fan. It's hard not to be a fan. It just sometimes you get the bad headaches, but if you have nice wine, it's not as bad at all.
Yeah.
Um, have you ever been up here to Oregon?
I haven't. No, I've heard it's beautiful though.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so expensive, but that's why it's beautiful. It's like the give and
Not
take.
quite
Um,
California, but
it's
uh
close.
close, right?
It's I mean, San Diego's probably the worst, but
Mm,
but Portland's not without it's not far behind. It's
right.
crazy.
Right.
um but if you ever come up here, if you ever come visit for, while we're working on some
Mhm.
projects and stuff, I'll take you out to some wineries, some cool stuff.
That'd be great.
We go out and it's like they treat you like a royalty because they have like the
Because they know
nicest, like,
you.
right. Well, well, it's just
Because you're
like,
there a lot.
no, no, I mean, been there 2 or 3 times,
Just a
four
few.
times, five, 6 times, 6 times in the last year, which is probably more often than most people,
Yeah,
unless they live
I
in
would
that area.
say.
But
The
the only reason
same
we probably don't
winery?
go, well, we go to different wineries, but the only reason we don't go often is
Mhm.
because it's like a 30-minute drive to get to any close
Oh,
ones from Portland. But if I lived in the country, I would probably frequent way more often.
totally,
So
totally.
so anyway, so you're drinking wine. Let's go. Okay, so jumping in right quick. So typically we like to catch up to what you've been up to since you left Southwestern. So I'll leave this up to you. You can either catch us up in as much detail as you prefer from
Mhm.
2019 to now. Like, what's your journey been like? Like, why did you leave and why this? Why now, right? Or you could tell us, we could just like dive right into like what you're doing now, skip the 3 years in between. Your call. But the mic is yours.
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks for plugging me in there. It's only been like 3 years, but it feels like it's been 10 because of all of the crazy shit I've been learning since leaving books. But I'm just the kind of person who loves to learn, and I just get into the most random new shit all the time. Um, if you're familiar with like Enneagram stuff,
Yes.
I have a nice. Okay. So I'm a 4 wing 5, and my
Makes
5
sense.
wing is really, really strong. So like I can get super nerdy about things. And I also love people. I find them super interesting, people behavior and psychology and why people buy things. Marketing is also just
Mhm.
a natural inclination that I had. And so books was an interesting experience because I'm also pretty introverted, really shy, like really shy, naturally. And so
Huh.
books was like definitely a big step out of my comfort zone, but I learned how to talk to people and not be just a fucking weirdo, you know? Um,
Right.
so in the context of sales, um,
So just to be like that
and
awkward moment.
yeah, I love creating awkward moments for people, and it's uncomfortable for me. Like everybody else, fuck you. But no, yeah, awkward moments. I'd rather not. I'd rather have none of them. Um, so when I left books, it was my last summer was 2019. I just knew it was time for me to go. I'm like, honestly, I did not enjoy the job. And that's not to say everybody enjoys the job. Like, you're not going to sell books because you're gonna love knocking on doors 80 hours a fucking week, right?
Right.
But I was like, I'm not gonna do this even as a DSL. Like, I didn't want to do any of that. Um, and I didn't really build a team when I was in school. Since I started in 2016 as a freshman, I graduated in 2019, and I was like, oh, that was my book career, my college career. So I left, and actually, a really big thing I have to mention, that happened to me in December of 2019, right before I graduated, or actually right after I graduated, was Trey Campbell invited me on a mission trip. And I got baptized
Ooh.
and proclaimed my love for Jesus, um, and accepted him into my life. And that's when a lot of crazy shit started to happen.
Yes.
like part of my testimony. But I
Let's
got
go.
back. Yeah, I went to Nicaragua for about a week, and then I came back and I was like, LOL, I just graduated from Florida State and I don't have a job lined up. And I know I don't want to sell books again. So what the fuck am I going to do? And I was just like, la di da, figure it out, because I was confident enough in myself at that point to be like, oh, I will figure it out. It hasn't hit me yet. And I'm super intuitively based in how I make decisions. And so honestly, leaning on God in that too was something that came pretty naturally to me. And that's how I
Oh.
pretty much make all of my decisions. And while that might be like, uh-oh, girl, what the hell? I have never been steered wrong by it. So I came back from Nicaragua, and I was like praying about what the F I should do. And I had this huge epiphany in that moment that told me I needed to move to Nashville. And I had been putting the pieces together for a little while. I knew that at heart I was an artist. I'm a musician, and I really just like left that shit behind to do all business things. I was a business major and then picked up a creative writing major later in my college career and finished that. And I've always been a creative, a writer, a songwriter at heart, a poet, all of these things. And it was kind of an epiphany moment in January, coming back from that trip and praying and getting that, sense that I needed to move to Nashville. Like, you need to return to that because that's who you are.
Yeah.
And so I was like, great. Okay. Well, I'm, in this apartment by myself in Tallahassee, Florida. Let me just pack up all my shit and go to Nashville.
And you just straight up on a whim?
No job, no place to live. I just packed up my car and left.
Yeah, you had to end your lease or anything, or was it like a month-to-month
No,
thing?
I rented it out to Olivia Batshon at the time because she was full-timing at Florida State. So I was like, no, like I'll get some things in a row and make sure that I don't do anything illegal. But
You're out.
Yeah, I was out. I'm
So
like,
from the time that you get back from Nicaragua and you make this decision that you need to leave to Nashville to when you arrive in Nashville with all your shit, how much time passed between that?
it was probably like a week and a half of me just
God.
okay, I need to move. And okay, let me make sure that I can fit all of the stuff I need to bring in my car. Say goodbye to my parents who lived in Sarasota, Florida. And so I drove down there and I was like, okay, let me at least try to maybe find a place to live, and just got connected with a few people in Nashville, like Trey and Sarah Mercer, who works at the company right now. And just like some other people that I know are there that might be able to help me figure shit out. But I came up, drove right up like the 12 times I had done before going to sales school. But this time I was crying for a different reason. I was always crying on my way to sales school. But this time,
more on that later.
Who didn't cry on their way to sales school? So
they changed the sales talk again.
Like, fuck, I'm doing this again.
Why? Why did I go to that Safeway? Or no, you guys probably went from a Publix or something.
It was usually a Waffle House parking lot.
You guys went to Waffle House and
I never coordinated these things, or at least that I remember.
What a
it's
time
just like going along with it. Yeah,
the
exactly.
Morning of sales school. What a day. Jesus.
Oh, it's so much fun.
So you're on the book field. You're on your way to Nashville, not for the book field, but you're crying. Why are you crying this time?
I'm crying because it's like a truly we're stepping into the unknown kind of moment. And I didn't quite set myself up for it. I'm really leaning on my faith here, being like, all right, so I'm a new Christian. What's God gonna do now? Which probably is the wrong attitude to have about it. But it was kind of like,
Lord.
Pretty much. I'm like, great. I have this newfound faith, and we're gonna start using it. And I got to GRS one because I came like right before the weekend of GRS one, and met up with a couple friends, and really kind of just said goodbye to everybody. And within, what was it, about a week and a half, I found a sublease with some
Nice.
two really awesome musician girls in East Nashville, and I landed a
Nice.
job at this crazy company um that was kind of like an agency but also like a sales company at the same time. They were a sales and marketing agency for other companies. So you could
Oh,
hire
sweet.
out BDRs. That's kind of like an outsourcing thing.
Yep.
So they were based here in Nashville. And I got a sense that the company was like not run by the sharpest tools in the shed for like executives and all of that.
Well,
But that made me really excited.
yeah, because I was gonna say that usually happens often to people when they leave Southwestern and then they go meet the leadership in another company that's to quote unquote crushing it, and you're like,
Hmm.
what the fuck are you guys doing?
Oh my
Like,
God.
you know what I'm saying? They have like the technical sass and ability, but when it comes to just like the average things that we were taught that are that transcend just selling books that can be applicable to parenting, marriage, and or
Hmm.
other businesses, they don't have that at all. And
No.
it is crazy. I was like, how did you guys make it this far even? Like, if they can do
Exactly.
this,
That's
shit.
what's amazing about it. So I took that job because I had interviewed at other places for like business development positions. And so it's like sales, kind of like setting appointments and things like that.
Right.
Um, and I took the job because I knew it would give me some financial freedom, and some like time to get my shit together so that I can put all of my money and stuff into building my brand and building a personal brand and also making music. So that was kind of the idea there. It was like the hustle. The
Hell
hustle
yeah.
begins.
So I have so many questions
Mhm.
as we're going. Okay, so first of all, like I guess comment 10 questions. Comment number one, you need to get a hold of if you haven't, a guy by the name of Matthew Mead. He's
Mhm.
a bookman that is in Nashville. He moved to Nashville to pursue his music career. Very, very talented. Um, and I just think that just connecting with other musicians who are book
Yeah.
people would be just to even like have that awareness of people in the area with the same interests would be good. Also, I need to maybe put you in touch with Kate Wright, who have you know who Kate Wright
Yep.
is? Are you familiar?
Mhm.
She yeah. So, but she had a band,
Yep.
and
Uh
she yeah
Mabel something
yeah
Bell. Yeah.
I can't Manson and Bell. I can't
Yeah,
remember, but
something
yeah,
like that. I can't remember, but I know.
Mads and Bell, Mads Bell. Yes, but phenomenal, and she
Mhm.
crushed it. And in her episode, she shared about how she used her Southwestern knowledge to essentially play at like the top stages in Nashville and really throughout the country because she just was just a go-getter and she's a badass.
Mhm.
Her episode's great. Both of them actually really good. Recommend if anybody listening after this, go check that out. But I'll
Nice.
put you in touch with her after we're done here. So yeah, maybe pick her brain or something about stuff later
Mhm.
on down the road. So that's the two comments. The question I had is so for me for clarification. So this is like January of 2019 now. Or no,
Yeah. Or no,
2020.
2020. Mhm.
Oh, which is what a wonderful time to get into a new job. Matt,
Yeah.
wow. So little did we know what was about to happen to the world
Next.
of
Yeah.
performers, especially. So, all right, just
Mhm.
wanted to catch up on the timeline because I was like 29. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
So I got into that role as a business development person and I crushed that interview. It was like a breeze. Also, I'm like, are you guys qualified enough to be interviewing me? Kind of a question. Um, just there's a lot of really
Yes.
confusing things happening there, but I was like, oh no, I'm here to just like kind of make money and kind of crush it and just kind of own what I'm doing there so nobody questions me.
Mm-hmm.
which I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's the right attitude to go about it, but I'm
No,
like, I'm just like so
that's
good at my
fair.
job, nobody's gonna question me because
Yeah.
I'm the best one here, kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah, that's a great mentality, I think, personally. But,
and so then I can just focus on what I actually want to focus on. So obviously, come March, I mean, there was a tornado that happened in Nashville at that time, and then a month later, everything shut down, and we all went remote. I didn't really have an established community there
oh,
in
that's tough.
Nashville yet. So I was like, ooh, what do I do? And so I drove back down to Florida for a few months to stay with my family um, and just like be there. And honestly, 2020 to me feels like such a wash. And I'm sure to some extent
Same.
everybody feels that way. It's like, what did I even fucking do? Like I'm pretty sure I like binge watched the entire Marvel Universe series, and I would have
Let's
never
go.
done that. Like, I would have never done that, and that wasn't part of what I wanted to do. I was doing a lot of creating during that time. That's the one nugget of like really good shit that came out of 2020 for me, where I was like, I don't feel any FOMO because nobody's doing jack shit, and
Yeah.
I just get to
And you got to see Ant-Man, which was great.
yeah. Ugh. No, 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 no. I wouldn't have spent any time doing that, but it was nice to actually like see my family and hang out with them for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
In my adult life, I don't know when other time that would happen, um, kind of a thing. So I'm kind of grateful for that. But I did a lot of creating on TikTok, and that was a very interesting platform for me at the time.
Mm.
And I think Sarah, who I met, one person that I met while I was here, um, before everything shut down was Sarah Maddock, and we hit it off immediately. I was in her wedding just what was it 6 months ago,
Yeah. Congrats to
and
Sarah, by the way.
yeah,
She's great. We
and
had her on the show
she
a while back.
And I remember because we were living together. So all of that to say, like in 2020, I ended up moving in with Sarah Mercer and Sarah Maddock. And Mercer still works at Southwestern Advantage as a sales support. She's honestly like the director of sales support. And obviously Sarah Maddock's doing fun, creative influencer shit.
Yeah.
Um,
It's crushing.
and so, yeah, like we both had similar interests, obviously, in music and in creating stuff and just being kind of in that world of social media too. So I dove into TikTok and just made it a goal to post once a day and figure out how to make content. Because really, before that, I had never taken social media seriously. Like a lot of people, it's like, oh, this is fun because I get to post pictures of food and shit. But now, like, I'm seeing the business and strategy implications for brand building and the direction that the world is going in when it comes to digital and digital
Yeah.
marketing. So,
Ooh, which we're gonna get
mhm.
into that. It's
Oh, yes. So, kind of fast forward through that. I'm not even sure which month it is. Like I said, it's all a blur, but I worked for a couple different clients while I was at that agency. And the beautiful thing about that mess of a company was that they had so much there was so much opportunity to wear so many different hats. Obviously, it was like a kind of a startup too. But I absorbed so much shit in
yeah.
the little amount of time that I was there, and that was for about
It's
2 years.
yes. I'm gonna say this really quick because you just made me think of this. If you go sell books and then after you sell books, you get into a startup, not like a startup that they started last week out of the garage. I'm talking about like
Yeah.
they've maybe been around for a year or two, maybe they survived the pandy, but they're still definitely like still like $1 million company or $500,000 company, not more than 50,
Mhm.
somewhere in that bank, and you just go and wear all those hats. You will learn the other side of things that you didn't learn selling books, and
It's
then
stupid.
those two skills together, sharp, sharp,
Mhm.
sharp, double-edged sword.
And I
Oh
didn't know
man,
that
so
was
I'm glad
what
that
we
that
were
happened to
walking
you.
into. Yeah, thank you. I didn't know that's what I was kind of walking into either. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. What are you doing? And just learning my way around a business um, outside of being a salesperson. Because, I'm doing sales, business development. You're just setting appointments, but like, what the hell is everybody else doing in this organization? What is my director's job? What is their
Right.
boss's job? Um, and it's just a really cool experience. And I
Mhm.
had enough bandwidth to think outside the box with also appointment setting. So instead of making phone calls like you're traditionally supposed to, in the pandemic, all of that went to shit anyway. Like nobody's answering the phone for anybody. So I pioneered sending LinkedIn DMs that were all personalized and kind of just like being a cool person over LinkedIn and representing a brand that way. And it was kind of a unique spin on how to do business development. And I set so many effing appointments and brought in so much revenue just through like connecting with people over social, which is really cool. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And
Hell
then
yeah.
they adopted my strategy and was like, okay, well, fuck the phone calls. We'll just kind of do things the way we can do things. Um, and there's where my social media brain in a professional setting was born.
Started.
Yes. And so,
Let's go. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I kind of expanded. Um, I expanded a team doing that. And then I moved to marketing because I was like, oh, I don't want to do this business development shit anymore. Do you guys need help somewhere else? And they moved me over to the marketing department where my director at the time was like just so amazing. She had the patience to teach me paid media and being a marketing strategist from ground zero because they just needed the help. And so I was being
Mm.
paid a full-time salary, what, like 50 grand a year? It's not really a lot, but a
It's
full-time
something.
salary to learn from ground zero. Like what is a keyword?
So, oh yeah. Okay, so this is where we can maybe open up. All right. Yes. Oh, so let's talk shop here. And here's the thing: if you're listening in and you own a business, you work for a company, you're any sort of part entrepreneur, I would take out a notepad and write down whatever is about to come out of Noelle's mouth from what I'm about to ask, because I know now what you're capable of, and we're talking. This is like maybe late 2020.
Yeah,
So
2021 at this point.
so you're trial by fire of what you learned. So before
Mhm.
we let's do a quick like 30,000 foot view of what you mean with what you do. I mean, I know, right? But
Mhm.
just so people kind of get an idea of really what it fucking means, because this is such a part of our culture in Southwestern that was not like, it was almost frowned upon if you suggested trying this, because
Yeah.
we've been doing this for 160 years and we know what we're doing, which yes, but it's not just yes, it's yes
And
and
yes, and.
and it's 2022. And
Mhm.
how important this is, it's not that it's going to lose you money, is you're just not making money, so you're just leaving money on the table,
Leaving
you're
money
not
on
going
the
to
table.
burn cash, you're just leaving money on the table. That's like going to sell to a house that has, it's the equivalent of going to a house that has a high schooler, middle schooler, and a kindergartner and a 3-year-old and going, here's the math section. Sure, I mean,
Yeah.
you can sell math books, but you're leaving
Mhm.
cash, a lot of cash on the table. So this is a good point to be like, what, when you say digital marketing,
Mhm.
what do you mean specifically? And like, where how many, like, hands were you having on this? Like, how was this for you hands on?
Totally. So when I say digital marketing and paid media, specifically my role that I signed up for was to be a paid media strategist. And if you guys know what Google AdWords is, or Google Ads, Facebook ads, Instagram, TikTok ads, anything that has to do with advertising for a brand or anything like that is in my wheelhouse of expertise of knowing how to generate leads through those ads. So,
And let me interrupt right there. So
mhm.
just so it's like crystal clear, because some of the people that listen on our show, like, have a hard time even finding the podcast app on their phone. And so that because they're more old school, I'm not saying they're old, they're
Mhm.
still young, which is what's heartbreaking is they're still young, but they don't know the power of what you're talking about because it's so new.
Yes. Mhm.
So, like, if you've ever been scrolling on Instagram or
Yep.
on YouTube or on Facebook, and that knife set that you looked up on Google 2 days ago shows
Mhm.
up,
I
and
can
you
do
go,
that.
"Oh, they're listening to my phone." No, they're not. It's just Noelle being a smartass and
Yeah.
getting into your and so it's
It
you being a
totally is.
smarty pants and getting to know exactly how to target those people. So that's where that comes from, and that's what you specialize in. I'm just making it like painfully clear so
Yes.
that I mean, because there's so many people that are like, yes, we know what that means, because there are also young people that listen to this,
Mhm.
younger people that listen to this. But for the people that might not be as aware of what social media can do, other than show someone's like workout routine and or like meal that they had for lunch, this
Oh,
is really the
yeah.
power.
This is such a powerful engine. And it's only gonna get in in maybe y'all's opinion, it's only gonna get worse. So if we don't know how to open the podcast app on our phone, let's keep practicing, y'all.
Yeah,
Because this is, in my opinion, my ear is to the ground in the digital space all day, every day, because I'm building a brand myself over the internet. I'm watching people be successful building brands over the internet, and I'm seeing companies get left behind not building brand over the internet and taking advantage of that real estate with the younger generation, right? So there's the
correct.
opportunity. We're talking about, the cigarette brands who just want to target 50 plus year olds, aren't, you know, getting a hold of the 18-year
Yeah.
old, which is kind of a bad example, but like that's kind of the idea. Like, you know,
Smoke. We are not
you
sponsored. We do not recommend smoke. I was
smoking
joking. Please don't
or
do that. That's really
vaping.
bad for you. That is not. The opinions of our guests are their
Mhm.
own. Actually, I mean that
Yeah.
legally.
And
But
I
to your point, there's like think about it. If there's an 18-year-old right now, this is a kid that's boy or girl or at this point actually in the world that
they
we live in,
them.
who knows? They
Yep.
them. Um, eh, they are living in and out of TikTok, in and out of Instagram. They are consuming all of their media, everything, all of the days on their phone. And these are the kids that in 4 years are going
Are
to
going to be
have
buyers.
marketing degrees, and they're going to
Mhm.
have journalism degrees, and they're going to have jobs, and then they're going to go and buy shit.
Mhm.
And in 4 years is how long it probably takes realistically at the minimum to build a solid presence and brand organically online. So
Yeah.
like a really one that you're like, wow, we're cranking. So like that's why you have to start yesterday. If you
Yeah.
I mean, we have people who are our sponsors that we've been like, dude, you need to get
This
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 going
needs to happen.
because it's not going to be overnight. You can't. And if you're doing it right, it's going to take years. And by the time that happens, these kids that are just and more consuming media through their mobile devices specifically, like that's who you're going to be recruiting. That's who you're going to be selling to. It's going to
Yeah.
be your talent pool. So do it yesterday.
And another value proposition, or my third reason why you should probably get on this train of social media, is the fact that the digital space is just where all the attention is. If we really bring it down to distill exactly how we get people to know about us or sell anything, we need attention on us. We need attention on the brand. So, how you can capitalize on that, all the attention, where your 12-year-old is spending their attention, where you spend your own attention. A lot of them are on social media. They're not watching TV, they're not listening to the radio anymore. So, the really cool opportunity with digital, especially with paid ads and what I do with organic social media, which means not paid social media, just things anybody can post online, on social, is that I can get you a lead for like $4. coming in from an ad directly, giving
Yeah.
me contact information and already telling me that they're interested in something like this. Whereas you put like, a print ad in the newspaper or on TV or on the radio or in, some kind of spot, you can't track that data
Yeah.
back to exactly how, we got these leads, if any leads come in from it. People used to pay, 10, 20 years ago, millions of dollars for television spots.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
not know what the ROI was on that. I can
Right.
literally tell you that. And I can tell
Or the
you
CAC.
exactly.
Yeah.
It can get so granular.
Yeah.
Um and making little tweaks here and there can, you know, it's just
Yeah. It
yeah.
you, I mean, for the obvious reasons that we've stated, and then also for the fact that it's like it's not gonna get any less that way.
Yeah.
It's gonna get more and more that way. I mean,
The sad
everything that
truth or
you
the happy
do.
truth is that
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
Well, but then that's the deal. Like that's actually that's the opportunity where if you have a product or if you have a company that is really really positive, then
Mhm.
that will win out, right? Because another thing that social media or digital marketing does is it sniffs out, like at first you can get away with like a scammy or shady business and it
Yeah.
might work. You might first 4, 5, 6 years really make a turn a profit, but as because it leaves a digital footprint and because you can see so many more different things, the people who are more ethically
Mhm.
uh, doing their business are going to tend to survive. And from what we know of book people, that's typically any book person
Yeah.
that starts a business typically
Mhm.
is a relatively ethical company. So I mean, it's just a strong play across the board, and more, and then ultimately, you can create a lot more movement, a lot more a call to action, on online than
Mhm.
you can just by word of mouth even anymore.
Another interesting thing to think about with digital and just how things are moving right now. I mean, if you look at I look at my own buying behavior all the time and I love studying other people's, like, why did this person buy this? You know,
Yeah.
why, why are they spending this much money when another product, is half the price and all of this. So it's it's a really I'm losing my train of thought here. I've maybe had a little bit too much wine. But I'm
No,
like,
I got you. I got you.
yeah, but it's yeah,
Y-
just digital
You were
marketing.
you were talking about like
What am I
how.
talking about?
Yeah, no, so you start like the way that
It
this
was
this
such a
thought came.
cool point, Andres. I'm like,
No, I got you. I got you.
literally, yeah.
Your thought came from the fact that we were talking about how everything's gonna become more and more this way, and so
Okay, I've got it.
you got it. Yeah,
I'm
I
back.
got you. That's
Okay,
what I'm here for. That's what
back
I'm here for.
online. You've revived me. So Southwestern, what's interesting is that the one thing they didn't teach us how to do was actually how to market. And
Yeah, exactly.
if you think about it, people buy brand. And if you're like Southwestern's a great sales company, but if I were to speak some truth into that right now, if Southwestern were just a huge global brand like Coca-Cola, we wouldn't really need sales people to the extent at which we have all these salespeople. And I know that's probably a contentious thing, but hear me out. Nobody had to sell you your Nike shoes. You
Right.
went into Nike because it's Nike and you
Yeah.
bought those and you went up and just purchased it.
Well, on
I
that
know.
note,
I
not
know.
only that,
That's a big
not only
blow, isn't
that,
it?
I mean, no, 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 that's great. No, I think you're right. The way my to add on that is yes, and not only that, not only would they sell more books globally or
Mm,
even nationally, but then you could afford to pay more commissions to the book kids. Like you can now. It
yeah.
doesn't mean you wouldn't have book kids still go out because that's still a great. It would be
The
two
mission
sources
of the
of revenue
company, right.
could still be intact, and so you wouldn't rely on the ability of college
Yes.
kids for all your revenue over 3 months
Yes.
and then hope it was a good year, hope a pandemic doesn't destroy
Mhm.
you, hope the change in technology doesn't get you out of the business, hope that the
Mhm.
fact that you're too slow to come up with new products and innovate, because they
Yep.
are, It's just the truth. They've been selling the same
Yeah,
books for the
that's
books
the
that they
truth.
sell today are the books that I sold 10 years ago. That's just how.
Yes.
That's not a dig. That is a fact. And they were selling those a couple years before I even started. And then,
Facts.
right. So because they're that way, the way to protect against that is to be able to market and do this both ways. Where you do, hey,
Mhm.
you're creating a brand. And even if you don't even want to go from this product standpoint, do it from the recruiting standpoint. Create a brand so that way when people Google Southwestern Advantage, which if you
Oh, that's another can
pa-
of worms, Andres. Oh my
pause this
gosh.
right now, 44 minutes, and pause this right now. Just Google Southwestern Advantage and see what comes up in your area. Jesus Christ.
Man,
So
it would
that's my
help
point.
so
Like
many
creating
things.
that brand, there's like it would just revitalize everything, modernize everything, and the
Yeah.
mission doesn't have to change because book kids can still go and sell systems,
Yeah.
websites, whatever it is that it innovates to. Still, you can afford to pay them more because you have
Mhm.
revenues elsewhere, right? And you can offer like the internship, a little bit more internship anywhere, maybe like you have enough revenue to not have it be a crazy way to find a way to live that summer, or that you can like, do you
Yes,
know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
you
We're
can
gonna
fix
be
a lot of
more
the issues that you have. Yeah.
yeah, more proactive approach than a reactive approach. Just across the board with
Right.
PR, with everything. And not that the internship shouldn't be hard. It'll still be hard
Oh yeah.
knocking on doors.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, but it would just take out so many, I feel like, unnecessary bumps in the road that really like cost the company and DSLs way too much money, and like really bad experiences with some kids. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, couldn't find a host
Literally make a
family.
bad PR. Yep.
Sorry, fuck you.
Hmm. Yeah.
He, you
Yep. That's
know.
how it works.
So,
100%. 100%. And so and you were talking also about buying behavior and just looking at how people buy. And so
mhm.
let me ask you this, and just so people can really understand the power of what you do, I'm going to ask you this. This can be a yes or no question, but then you can expand on this, right?
Okay,
But let's say I'm a pod. Let's just talk about. I'm just going to talk from a personal standpoint so people can
sure.
understand what we're doing. I tell you, hey, Noelle, I would like to target um people in Nashville, actually, or maybe across the country, but let's just to get
Okay.
specific. I want people in Nashville between
Mhm.
the ages of 20 and 35 who sold books, currently maybe work at a company, a sister company, and are in the real estate space.
Mhm.
Can you do that? And you would say,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, you can target okay. I was like, "Oh, this is a yes or no question." I'm like, "Are you gonna ask me a question?" Sorry. I was just,
No,
like, listening really intently at,
so
like, "Okay, this
so
demographic, this stuff."
so for people listening who are business owners, what other superpowers have you the ability to take to be able to help them understand a little bit better, more of like maybe the more, not instead of
Oh
30,000
my
foot view, more like the
gosh.
10,000 foot view, like
Yes. I
up
have an
close?
example from today with one of my clients who is honestly like their ads, the target market, this brand is trying to hit is just not college students, and they're trying to force college students to be interested in this, and I'm like, honestly, no, fuck that. If it's not college students, we're not going to try to force anything. Let me run a national campaign for all ages and get some key learnings there as to which customer segments we should actually be targeting who would actually be interested in this. It's no more like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's more
Mhm.
of this like, okay, we're testing for insights to inform who we should be talking to and who should we be targeting because of
Oh,
what's already there.
oops, we're off schedule again, everybody. I just want to let you know the average agent at Cardinal Senior Benefits works about 31 to 34 hours a week, which is a lot less, about 50 less than we were knocking door to door. Holy shit. Anyway, back to ponytails. Yo, yo, ponies. Off schedule moment. Everybody loves Property Brothers. Some people for the looks, some for real estate. If you're the second or both, you should become a Property Brother or sister over at Southwestern Real Estate. Can't promise that you'll look good, but you'll sell a lot of houses. Okay, back to work. So you're talking about like a different kind of thing. So
Oh yeah, we're
but
probably all
that's
over the
genius.
place.
No, that's genius. So what I meant, just to clarify, so what I meant is like if I was an insurance company, for example, and I wanted to recruit in like Colorado, and I wanted to find people with
Yep.
specific demographic experiences, race, color, age, sexual preferences, even. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's
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 that
like
accurate, but
tier
some
1. That's like tier 1 of what I can do.
basics. Now,
Yeah.
what you're saying is instead is I go up to you, to use me as an example again, that's more tangible. Is I go, hey, look, I want to know where in the country alumni live. So people who have sold books, have worked for Southwestern Advantage, have recently looked up Southwestern Advantage, have maybe attended a Southwestern Advantage event, have left reviews on Southwestern Advantage's website,
Mhm.
have liked it on Facebook, have followed
Yep.
it on Instagram, and I want to know where they live, what age they are, and what podcasts they're listening to.
Yeah.
Can
And
you give me that information?
I can give you most of that information depending on what the algorithms are doing and what Facebook will let me look at
Oh, right, right.
to
Because
an
they keep.
extent.
So maybe not Facebook, but just in general. Like I want to see. Like I want to go. Hey,
Yeah,
where are
Google,
all the
all of
alumni?
that stuff. Mhm. Yeah, we can find all of that.
And then
Um,
when I find that, you go, hey, Andres, it looks like there's these people. There's 32% people here, blah blah blah, in these states, and they're looking at these podcasts. And then I can go, all right, I'm going to call the host of that podcast and get on their show.
yeah.
And then I'll get on their show, talk about my podcast, and then all of a sudden, all of those people that you found were like, wait a minute, there's a podcast about book people,
Mhm.
and then they come over to me. That's something we can do this week.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we can do.
That's
And
fucking awesome.
and to add on to that, a part that not everybody else knows about too or thinks about is, all those kids that didn't quite sell books and how there were more of them than there were kids who sold books. I
Yeah,
can find them too.
yeah, all those people that so
All of the
friends that
people
maybe got invited to info sessions that didn't
people that
go.
look like book people who would listen to your podcast.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing,
Mhm.
cool. So just so people are listening, they're gonna be like, I mean, the young kids that are just coming out of college are like, well, yeah, that's marketing. But there's people who sold books in 2005 who are like probably listening to this going, what the fuck? So
That, and
yes.
not to mention the ROI is measurable and significantly cheaper than any other kind of marketing that's been previously available with.
Because you're reaching people who are like on their phone even when they're taking a shit.
Mhm.
Like that's probably when they'll see that. Yeah.
They're like
Like
little
so,
attention suck devices. It's literally like a little advertisement that you hold in your hands all the time.
yep.
It's just
Yep. Yep.
available.
Yep. Yep.
It's
Yep.
there
Yep.
and
Yep. Yep.
people
Yep.
want to be on it. So
That's
why aren't
awesome.
you advertising on it, motherfucker?
Let's go.
I'm I feel
I'm
very
glad.
passionately about this.
Well, you should. That's why you're about. So here's another thing I want to say, and just and I mean I'm tooting your horn here, but
Thank
like
you.
since working with you, and maybe this is how we can segue a little bit into what we're working now and how
Mhm.
people can maybe take advantage of how our partnership's going. Um, is one of the things that I appreciate about the way you talk and how you sound is that you've dropped shit bombs and f bombs here and there, and I love it. We have a fuck counter on screen, so we're at 9 fucks. Well, I guess we're
Yeah.
probably at 11 now. But while that's fun and hilarious to just have a candid conversation about it, at the same time, you have the ability to sound, because you are, is super well informed, which that's not by accident. You're not fronting. You're like, I've learned the lingo, I have learned the language, I have learned and mastered this. This is not something I just got into, a week ago, and
I'm
I'm
not
just, learning.
casually
I'm not
yeah.
casually learning it on YouTube. You're established and kicking ass, which is why we partnered up. So for people listening in, do you maybe want to explain a little bit of how we're partnering up and kind of what we're trying to offer people here by the end of this month, or by the end of
It's
November?
December. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
no,
we're
December 1st, this is ideally launching.
yeah, I want a little bit of your help on this too, just to make sure I'm
Sure.
filling
I'll
in
hop in. I'll
everything.
hop in.
Oh,
I'll color in
beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it started like you just reached out to me and you're like, "Hey, I've been talking to a couple of my sponsors here who are like really interested to know how the Ponytails podcast got honestly like as good as it got with the amount of reach you have, your audience, and how engaged they are, and like the potential earning opportunity that comes from that. Um, and so there's an incentive for your sponsors to have their own podcasts. And that's kind of what we would do. It's like kind of to me in my marketing brain, it's like we're kind of like a little agency for creating a company's podcast and marketing and finding their target audience and bringing them to the podcast to eventually help that company recruit or generate revenue or new clients. So that's
Exactly.
like, for me, in a nutshell, what we're doing.
Yeah, that's the 30,000 foot view. So what we did
Mhm.
and what I did this month, actually, so this is what I've been working on in the background is we have an LLC to start a new company that's called Unicorn Studios. And so basically what we will do is produce podcasts for companies, specifically people who are owners of a business who are looking to use and leverage podcasting and social media of that podcast to generate leads that they can control, own, and have that is their own. So where this is different than just like starting a social media marketing campaign specifically
Yeah.
for your business, is like, so Noelle can like go and help you with that as well. But the problem with that is, and we were talking about this even before we started the show, which is why your job has so much longevity, is that TikTok is gonna not be the popular app anymore in a few years. Instagram is not gonna be the popular app anymore in a few years, and so you're gonna, if you only ride only the social media route, you're going to be only being able to talk to people as you try to transition between apps and transfer your followers from one app to the other. Whereas if you have them live elsewhere, that is going to be more consistent, like podcasting, where we know now it's only going to be more and more popular. They're here to stay. This is something that you don't have to have a profile to even listen to them. It's a very accessible tool for the market. So if you have them live there and follow you and your brand, then you can transfer that follower and leverage that follower count to the next app that's TikTok or the next Instagram or whatever the next thing that comes up,
Mhm.
and continue to do so without losing any of them. Plus, you own that content. And then the opportunity to even monetize from there is pretty endless at this point from what I know about. So what we're doing is we're combining the expertise because, like, you know, well, I didn't realize this about me until a couple of people had mentioned this that we were doing the show, is I have, because I've had to learn how to do this professionally, uh like you, trial by fire, about learning from ground zero to the expertise that which is obviously you have now. I didn't even realize I had that, where I spent a lot of my time learning how to make sure I could grow a show that was professionally ran. And so with that expertise on our end that we're still learning, we're still growing, plus yours to be able to market that specific lead magnet essentially as what they are
Mhm.
really doing, it's an opportunity for companies to take ownership of their clientele or their potential future employees and or contractors. And so by helping them create their brand and do it in a way that helps people follow and be engaged with them and learn from them and grab all this value, you're creating an environment for people to follow you across the country and the world, really. So that's our end. Your end is to help us run those podcasts social media, so then, like you said, we can
Yep.
funnel them right back in towards like tangible numbers that we can come back to and
Exactly.
say, here's what it costs to get a customer from the podcast.
It's my job would basically be like finding the right person that would want to know about this. So the awareness piece, um, of whatever, it's personalized to each brand too, you know.
Yep.
Some brands are going to want to be recruiting heavy, you know, a couple brands we talked about that potentially would want to do this. You know, maybe would target college students, seniors in college looking for a job really soon.
Yeah.
That is an audience that I can specifically target for a podcast like this.
Right. You can target people who have learned, who've like wanted to learn about solar or the
Mhm.
energy field or whatever. Like, you can literally find and target specific people. And it's just the reason why this works and why it will work is because, as we know from Southwestern, it's a numbers game.
Yep.
And if you know the numbers and you can manage them and you manipulate the numbers,
Mhm.
as in like bend them to your will, as we know from the, what is it? I will multiply my value 100-fold. Now, scroll number
Yeah.
8.
It's also like literally getting 30 demos to a quality mom every day, not
Yeah,
just 30 demos. You know what I mean?
right.
Um,
And not the
so
quick door demo, like the actual,
yeah,
like we did the full demo.
yeah, like someone who would have interest in this. So yeah, that's kind of the really cool project that Andres and I are working on, and also with
Yeah. Zeno.
Zeno. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Zeno on the, for you guys know, and we'll have Zeno back on, and we'll probably have an episode when we launch the company, probably at the beginning of December, just specifically talking about this. So you guys can get more details. But what Zeno's going to do on the other hand, so Noelle specializes in social media advertising and marketing.
And
Zeno is
Google
also going to, and
could do
Google,
Google.
correct, Google too. And then we also kind of have to have, that's the paid side of things that she was talking about. Now, obviously, you can also do organic, but to not overwhelm you with a ton of stuff, we also got in Zeno, who owns his own company, who does more like the organic SEO keyword management, and also
Mm-hmm.
media management. So they do video editing, all that stuff. So creating websites. So there's like a third party in there involved as well. That, so not only are we going to get you paid ads and leads, we're also going to get organic growth between the two of you guys, plus listeners that we can get from our end, from how we recommend getting people to listen. So it's going to be a phenomenal opportunity for people if you guys are interested. Again, we're launching that December 1st, but we are having talks with potential people who have already chirped up interest. We have at least, I think we have 3 or 4 people who have all mentioned that they want to hear more about this. And right now, to be able to supply correct amount of quality of our services, we're
Mm-hmm.
probably capping that for the first few months after launch to like at most 5 or 6 people. So if you, and this is not a call to action from an urgency standpoint, because we'll find them by referrals anyway. But if you guys are listening to this and you want to get more information, by the time this airs, it'll probably be ready for you guys to get a hold of us to learn more about this. Because again, to ensure quality, we're going to say for the first few months we're capping it, so we're
Yeah,
not spreading ourselves too thin. But
exactly.
once we know we can provide quality and we have numbers to show, then we'll expand. So there'll be second waves if you guys are maybe not there yet, for sure. So hell yeah, that was cool. I was not expecting to share that, all of that like that, but
Mm-hmm.
let's fucking go. We're in. So
Yeah.
let's jam like butter. Any last closing thoughts before we jump into Southwestern stuff about what you do now, and kind of like the any, whether other value points to give out or just ways for people to learn more about what you're doing? Um,
Yeah. I
this would
mean,
be a good spot.
honestly, so kind of to that, and this is super funny. I'm like getting all, this is only one part of my business, what I
I
do with paid
know.
media. So I haven't even jumped into like everything else I'm trying to build, just
Oh,
as like a
let's go into
person.
that then.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's so
Yeah, let's
much.
go into that.
I'm
Cool,
like,
cool, cool, cool.
my so much of my expertise is in marketing, but that made me, and also I'm just entrepreneurial in my brain and my heart and my soul. Um, and I'm really passionate about artists. I'm really passionate about creatives of any type who are honestly the get the short end of the stick when it comes to any kind of business education. So another part of my business that I'm starting up, and I've been kind of working at it for a couple months, is honestly business coaching for artists, business coaching for writers,
Let's go.
musicians, all types of people who are really talented but don't know the first thing about promoting themselves, getting themselves in any kind of door, or kind of like what we talked about earlier with Kate Wright, how she had the business skills as an artist and she put herself on the biggest stages because of those interpersonal communication skills, sales skills, all of these things. And so my business, aside from, I love how excited you are about this.
That's so awesome. I just love that you're doing that.
Yeah, so that's like social media and doing like a, you know, having clients in the business world is one part, but another part that I'm really passionate about is really helping these artists change their lives and learn how to make fucking money. Can we talk about that for like
Yeah,
the
go
starving
for it. Please,
artist
please do.
narrative? I'm so sick of that shit. It's like I am, creative people just they end up falling through the cracks with so many like kind of the way they feel like America has maybe done them wrong. We're not going to go into the victim mentality part of that, but like
I
it's
agree.
like, you know, they're just a different type of person. Uh
Yep.
Artists people, creative people, like maybe us business people don't quite understand them, but I have the brain for both and so much empathy and compassion for them. I'm like, you guys just need to know the skills because entrepreneurs and artists are like people want to put them on the opposite side of the spectrum from each other, but they're honestly like full circle the same type of person.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs need to be creative. They need to have those skills, and creatives, if they have and know business skills, which is the need that I'm trying to fill, they're like unstoppable people,
Right.
you know? So,
And like artists, they also need to have like that passion for and belief in what they do. Right? Like you
mhm,
have to have like that ability to believe in yourself because people are going to tell you, "Oh, it's a bad idea," or "No, you don't sing that well," or "No, you don't play the
exactly.
guitar that well," or whatever. But and you just got to break through that and be like, "No, I love doing this." So yeah, same kind of overlap there. You're right. There are
Yeah.
many entrepreneurs. They just don't know it.
Mhm. Exactly. And Southwestern
That's
helped
badass.
me so much with being an artist and also understanding the business side of it to where I don't need to try to go get a record deal in order to make like a six-figure income for myself as a musician, which is
That's
crazy
right.
to say. Like, especially in
Crazy.
this day and age with digital, like I can build a whole ass audience online, have them pay me support over Patreon, and I can perform live like a couple times a year. I can have a product line, all of this shit. It's just a creative way to put together a business. And it's really fun for me. I'm
Yeah.
like, I will never only have one thing going on because I'm probably just fucking crazy. But who here listening to this podcast right now only has like really one thing going on?
Right. Yeah. They're listening to this while they do their second thing right now.
I
Like,
know. Yes, still. And
yeah.
that's like the thing I get so jazzed about and what I want for other artists who just didn't have the same opportunity I did to learn business skills, um, to to see for themselves and
Hell
bring
yeah.
that to fruition. So
Mm.
that's my other thing. Aside
I'm
from the music making, aside from all this other
I,
stuff.
I'm so proud of you. That can I tell you, sir, about how I ended up being able to pay my rent through comedy?
What?
Yeah. But it's exactly
Yes.
how what you're talking about. Basically, Brandon Q and I, who Brandon Q sold like 8 summers, 9 summers or
Hmm.
shit. We partnered up and we were like an act. And so and even after we ended up we broke up like the Beatles. Even after that happened to us, like I was still able to now here's the thing, disclosure. Um Rent in Lincoln was pretty cheap. So, it's not like I was making a ton of money, right? But I was making enough to pay my rent. Like I had a goal. Once I had achieved all my goals that I wanted to at that point in comedy, I was like, what's the next cool thing to do? And I was like, if I was able to pay my rent and live off just people laughing, that'd be great. The only reason that really it hit the fan was because of the pandemic, because you can't really do
Yep.
comedy
Yep.
during a pandemic. You can still play music. You could do live music on Zoom, but you can't Zoom a stand-up set.
Comedy.
That's
Yeah.
not the same. It's not the same. Um,
Well, I think you could.
well,
We
no,
would have
it's
to talk
not.
about
It's
it.
not.
No,
It's
it
not
didn't
the
go
same.
well.
It's not.
Okay.
Well, not just that it didn't go well, but like here's the thing. Like for musicians, and I'm not trying to play. This is not the victim mentality. I'm just like this is just the
You're fine.
practicalness of it. But like right. So for example, music, you can practice and not have to go outside. You can practice your guitar. You can practice your singing. You can take online videos and like make sure listen to yourself. Right.
Mhm.
The only way that you can write jokes professionally is if you go try them out at an open mic where there's humans
Ah,
that like are gonna, and you couldn't do that for 2 years. Some
it's
places here
true.
in Portland, they still can't do that. So,
Mm,
um, so that was a big bummer. But anyway, long story short is I figured out like it was funny because in the comedy world you have to eat shit. It's kind of like you got to earn your stripes,
yeah.
kind of like right.
Yeah.
But that's if you don't have business experience, is what I found out.
Exactly.
Because when I went to, here's the thing, I was in comedy for like 3 years and I went to launch my own open mic, and the comics who had been around for 10, 15 years were like, who the fuck do you
Who the
think you are
fuck are
trying to do
you?
this? Like this, yeah, all this bullshit about like how I could do it because I'm too new. But I knew how to do it because all you had to do was go door to door, quote unquote, business to bar to bar until you found a bar that was cool and be like,
Yep.
talk to the owner, say, hey, my name's Andres. I'm the one that's been telling all the jokes around here in Lincoln, and I just wanted to. You had a place to sit down. Sure enough, here's a bar. Oh, okay, cool. Well, like I said, my name's Andres, and I'm a comedian. I just would do a fucking sales talk about trying to start an open mic, and the very first person I talked to, they were like, "Sure." So then that's how that started, and then after that, she trusted that I was able to pull it off because I would tell people to come and I organized it and I just did what
Yeah.
Southwestern taught me. And then after a while, she's like, "Well, now you can do whatever you want." So I was like, "I think we should do a show here, like a show." And I had a strategy of why we would do it, we were doing it when, and all this stuff. And she just kind of let me have full reign. And then I knew that I was like, "Hey, if I could, we get some like bigger talent and have people come to the show where I'll just do the host and feature act, and then they can do like the full hour act, and I can have a different comic every time we have a different show. People would pay at the door. You get bar sales, and I keep the door." And essentially, that's how it went. And it got to the point where I was throwing shows, or we were doing shows where 100 people would show up, and we would have to up ticket prices. And before the pandemic
Wow.
hit, we were going to have like bigger comedy names, like national touring art comics that were, I had their managers on the text like and email like talking about when we were going to do it. And it was going to be like I'm like, I was really getting to the point where if the pandemic hadn't happened, I was really getting to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can actually
Make a
comfortably
living.
live
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
And it was all because, like you said, because I knew the business side of stuff, right? So that's very valuable that you're doing that for people who are artists, because it's such a it's really the way. No matter, it's kind of like a doctor. It doesn't matter how good of a doctor you are, if you don't have like the business side and you want to run your own practice, you're
Hmm.
not going to get far. You need to know this no matter what, or no, not necessarily no matter what, but you need to, if you know this, it's just a lot simpler
It's it'll
than
help you
not knowing.
not get taken advantage of and own more of your own shit. As talent,
Correct.
it's awesome to be like super, super talented, but everybody's going to try to take a chunk of that.
Correct.
That's just, it's a can of worms I can go into with like record deals
Ooh.
and publishing and all of that stuff. Like, because you're the talent, they're like, cool, we can monetize you because we know how to do the business. And so we are going to take the Taylor Swift effect. I'm a big fan of her, but and what she's currently doing now, honestly,
Boo.
just as I know we've talked about this as just an entrepreneur and businesswoman, it's a really big deal. What she's kind of done and for this industry, and it's helped pave the way for like artists to take more control. And if they just learn this shit, it's gonna make all of everybody else who's trying to quote unquote take advantage of you not even necessary. You don't even need to speak to them. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Also, I just get an idea and I put it on the chat.
I love it.
This is gonna be cool. Oh, dang. So okay. So you were talking about. Oh my gosh, this is so cool that you're doing this. You
Thank
are
you.
inspiring. You are inspiring.
Oh, thank you. That's what I like to
Hell
do as an artist. If I'm
yeah. You're
performing or if I'm not. This is my performance for the Ponytails podcast. Look at how inspired
you're gonna
Andres
sing.
is.
You're gonna
No.
sing. You're gonna play some music.
Not today. I
What
can
kind
just
of music
inspire
do you
you with
play?
my words. Um, I would be lying if I said, "Oh, a little bit of everything." I'm like, I love pop. Pop to me is just like so fun. And harder than everybody thinks it is to pull off. Um, writing really well, like any kind of really amazing lyricism to me, like clever shit. Rap is a fun genre because of that. I don't rap, but I'm like, oh man, how can I make this verse, or how can I evoke this feeling in a way that honestly I haven't heard it before, or in a really clever way that um would kind of make somebody turn their head and be like, "Oh, I'm paying attention now."
Do you have
Um,
any? Do you have any inspiration or any like idols that you're like them? They do this really well.
oh, Taylor
And you said
Swift.
Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Who else does this really well? Lana Del Rey does that really well. Um, lately, I've been listening to Bon Iver. I love,
Yeah.
man, so many of these like indie artists that are super slept on. Um,
Tomish.
they they need business skills because they need to be known on a bigger scale. Yeah, they're just. Oh, Alec Benjamin is also one that comes to my
Mm.
attention. He is a very clever songwriter and kind of exists in like a. He's a really young guy. He's like 26, and he sounds, honestly, to me when I first heard him, he sounds like a girl. But it's just such a clever
Because like his voice
songwriter.
is really high, or is it like a Tracy Chapman where you can't tell if it belongs to a male or female? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh man, yeah. His voice is kind of high. It sits in a higher register as a he's a tenor, but sits in a higher register. And man, he's just yeah. I can give you so many examples, but
Hell yeah.
there's that.
In Spanish, Shakira's lyrics, especially when she was younger, are
Mm,
stupid clever. They're so
yes.
good. She was great.
Hmm.
She
I
still
think
is, but
the first album I ever listened to in its entirety was Laundry Service by Shakira, and that came out in like 2001. And I
yeah,
absolutely could not stop listening to that. And I was 5, 6 years old. I remember
good.
that shit.
Shakira's better than Taylor Swift any day. She's the original T Swift.
I
Shakira's
wish
the
she was.
OG T Swift.
I wish I still heard about what she was doing. I don't know where she is right now.
She's maybe going to
She's
jail,
OG. Oh, love that. Love
but
that
she'll
for
probably.
her.
Well, she in Spain people get hurt. Yeah, she got divorced. She's Christian. She'll be fine.
She'll be.
But she was the OG. She was the OG Taylor Swift. She was 16 and she like did
Mhm.
not. She just kind of nowhere kind of showed up with her music and she was crushing it. And then she released another album at 18, but the lyrics that she has were talking about like world politics and they were super like
Mhm.
Taylor Swift was talking about she wears high shirts, I wear t-shirts, she's sheer
You're gonna do this
captain
to me,
and
Andres.
I'm on the
Man,
that's it.
you're
Shakira's out here.
living. You're living in
Shakira's writing
2009, Taylor Swift.
right, but when I'm talking about 1993 Shakira, when
Yeah.
she's out there like writing, she's 18 or something. She's writing about like politicians and the things that
Mhm.
people worship, um, and like it's, I mean, like strong messages,
Yeah.
like at 18. You know what I'm
Really
saying? I'm not
important
saying
stuff.
Taylor Swift sucks. I just, I'm just
Her
no, I am
message
saying
isn't
she
as
sucks. She
important
sucks.
as
No, I don't like Taylor
Shakira's.
Swift. But Shakira at that age,
Okay.
and then she kind of disappears for a little bit, comes back blonde, and she can belly dance on top of all that, and the world went nuts. And
Her
then that's
hips
when we
don't
went from
lie.
like we know who she is to everybody knew who she was. And
Mhm.
Laundry Service comes out. She's out here writing like
Love
whatever, wherever,
whatever
we're meant to be
to be
together. And you're like,
together.
damn, she's crushing it. And then she did the World Cup twice and the Super Bowl.
We can
Fuck
just have
Taylor
a,
Swift.
we can have a whole episode dedicated to Shakira and Andres because his voice is so soothing. He could talk about it and maybe even sing some of her songs for you.
Shakira. No, man. Well, I just like her because she's Colombian too. So that's, you know,
Yeah, I picked up on that as well.
she's a
she's
gem.
she's
It's
global,
her and
man.
Pablo Escobar. So she's like the opposite. She like evened out every bad shit that Pablo did.
Every
She's like she
I'm Shakira.
she said it, we owe the world because after that, so then we gave you Shakira and now we're even.
Now we're all
You know.
even.
Plus in coffee. So actually we're up. The world owes us.
That's
I don't even, this is a total tangent. I'm sorry.
You're fine. I really got you fired up saying that I liked Taylor Swift, and that was just
Ah,
it's always a divisive thing to say. I've said many divisive things in the last like hour and 15 minutes, but that one was probably the most.
that one. That one I
Mhm.
could not. All the other ones I was with you. I'm right with you. Taylor
Totally.
Swift. Oh man, shit. Okay, so you're coaching, you're consulting music artists. Well, not as music artists, just artists in general,
Mhm.
creators.
Yep.
You're specializing in your mastermind for uh online
Mhm.
advertising.
Yep.
You're producing music uh of your own.
Yes.
What else don't you do, or what else do you do? I mean, like I feel like you're out here like juggling massive bowling balls and succeeding highly at that, which is wow.
And I would say on top of that, building my own personal brand, which is
Love
its
it.
own full-time job. So really, how many full-time jobs do I have? It's hard to count. Um,
Yes.
And that's a blessing and a curse. It's like, can I actually put my focus in 5 places without, you know, is that actually effective? I'm okay with dropping bowling balls, here and there, and coming back to them. I've really the one thing I've been trying to intentionally focus on that's always eaten me up is patience. Having patience for the process. And that got me when I
Mm.
was selling books. And it's something that I'm working through now as an entrepreneur because I live in the instant gratification world. I'm on social media, you know.
Mhm.
I see all these successful people and I'm like, "Oh no. I am not doing anything." So, it's it's a balance. And I think it's a healthy thing for me to learn, patience and enjoying the process.
Yeah. I'm with you right there. I look at, I mean, but don't fall into the trap because this happens to me often
Mhm.
where I'm like, is this even matter? Is this even fucking worth it?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I look up and I'm like, no, we're doing a great thing. Like, this is a
Mhm.
fun thing that we're doing. It's a cool privilege to be able to do it for the community that we serve, that we mainly try to serve.
Yeah.
And at the same time, and it's just all, and we talked about this too, prior to recording, but earlier this week, about the key really is consistency. The name of the
Yeah.
game is you could do all the things right, but if you're not doing them consistently, it's not.
Mhm.
It's every day, just
Just a little
and
bit
then
every day.
it
Yeah.
will and then it will out. So
Exactly.
I can't wait
Hap
for your brand. So if people want to get a hold of you, if someone's listening, going, I need to talk to this gal and learn
Yeah.
all that she needs to know and hire her for all of the things I have, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my email is Noelle, spelled Noelle, at noellesporer.com. So Noelle Sporer, spelled like my first name, no Noelle Sporer, .com. So that's my like business email. If you guys have any questions, just want to chat, want to talk about Taylor Swift, like I am an open book. You can find me on Instagram, Noelle Sporer Music. I also have an Instagram dedicated to my poets and writers and artists who are building brands themselves and running businesses. There's a lot of places you can find me. You can even probably Google my name and something will come up. I hope it's not like anything crazy that I've never done anything that crazy in my life. You won't
Should we
find any
Google it
like
right now?
DUIs.
Should we Google right now and find out?
Maybe an article I wrote in college because I was trying some journalism stint. I don't know. Something like that. So, yeah, email me there if you have any questions or DM me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok by the same name. I like to just keep things consistent across the board.
Well, look at that. Look at this. I'm seeing. I Googled you. Your website came up right away, which is
Oh,
really good
oh
because
my gosh.
which is
Yes.
exactly
It's
what
like
you want.
nobody else is named Noelle Sporer because it's such a unique name.
It is. I see on TikTok. You have some TikTok. I see the TikTok. Okay. Yeah, you TikTok, and then
Mhm.
you have a LinkedIn. There's your LinkedIn.
Yeah. All of those
Something about
places.
FSU, and then your Facebook page from selling books. Let's
I've been trying to
go.
take that down for a while so that I don't have just customers years later coming back to me like, "What are you doing?" Like, I care about you, but mm, I never
Different
post
time,
there. Wrong
different
context.
place. That's
Exactly.
right. Well, on that, okay, so let's jam on that then. Let's wind the clocks back to
Sure.
2016 and get into what the hell caused you to go to Nashville and then beyond and sell some books. Or how did you get recruited? Tell me your book story.
Yeah, my book story, I was man, my whole life, I think I was just going to say yes to something like this. And Chase Bridwell recruited me. He works with David Stewart in Southwestern Insurance right now. And he, looking back at it, he's probably the most, almost the most opposite person that I am. Like, how would someone like him, like really good altruistic Christian frat boy from UGA, really good Southern Christian boy, meets this like super introverted, shy, like, well, I would look people in the eye, but like begrudgingly, you know? Like
Painfully.
I just like hated talking to people. And
Wow.
we just came from two different worlds, it feels like. And but his message was so clear that selling books would be great for me. You know? But I was like
And
sold
he was
from,
right.
yeah, I was sold from the info session. He called me on a random yellow piece of paper. I was like, yeah,
Oh,
I want
you
to
were
make
like
apron.
you were
I
like
was a survey,
a
very
survey?
cold, the coldest you could get. I was in a lecture class too when I filled that out, like a huge lecture hall. I was just a buyer from the beginning.
Total
Um,
pony.
yep, pretty much. And sold books in Pennsylvania my first summer.
Ooh, let's
Um,
go.
oh my
What part of
gosh,
PA?
they're Pittsburgh.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Now, hang
and
on. Now, hang on. Before you go to your first summer, I want to hear about your first sales school experience because that's always something people like
oh,
have such a bananas experience with because it's like the first time in your
yeah.
life something like that's happened. What do you
Yeah,
remember?
man, I'm like, I can barely remember my first. I didn't feel like it was that eventful, which is kind of weird, maybe to say. I was like,
That's unique.
I was prepared very well by Chase as to what I would be expecting. So I'm like, yes, this is all normal. I was so by the book with everything. I was doing my research, I read everything, and I'm like, okay, I am prepared because I have like that Enneagram 5 part of me where I'm like, I need to know, I need to like have an expectation. And going into sales school, I was like, wow, this is really intense. I'm really tired. And that's kind of what I remember from the experience. But I didn't really stand out like a sore thumb in sales school either. Like you hear maybe Dustin Hillis had his long hair and he was just like, you know, an awful kid at sales school. I like slipped through the cracks in that way where I wasn't chosen to do like what the hell
The
was it?
reality
Oh
check.
my god, the reality check. I was not chosen for that. I really like I was an average first year in sales school. Maybe I was a little bit
Yo,
quiet and people were worried about me because I don't like speak my mind about what I'm feeling or thinking, and I'm just kind of like vibing and going along with it. And people have to like check in with me and they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just here. Um
yo, the
so
reality check though. Oh
yeah,
my gosh. Just
but in
watching it is so intense.
I know, that was a very scary time. I'm trying to remember who did my reality check my first summer. I
And
think it was Pagosi Groom. Yeah, Amy.
for people listening who might not know or remember what this is, it's
Oh,
other
yeah,
people call it the real deal.
the real
Other people
deal.
like and it was like the Tuesday or Wednesday of sales school. So like we've been in it for a few
It's like
days.
the worst part of sales school. It's
So
supposed to be the
and
most intense.
we've explained this on the show, but let's just catch people up for or just for the sake of reminding people of this graphic. It's not graphic, but it's just like intense, like hour. So basically, the way it on the inside, the way it works is they pick a kid who's doing really well, pick who's a kid who's doing all right, or like in the middle of the road, and then a
Mhm.
person who is not doing so hot,
Yep.
like learning and catching on to what's going on.
Really
Maybe they're not
struggle
trying,
bus.
maybe they're walking around. It could be because they're not from a talent standpoint, more from like a mentality standpoint, where they're not really bought in, or they might like be goofing around instead of actually working.
Yeah.
And so what they do all summer or all week long during sales school, we're doing practice approaches. So people will just throw up literally like put up their hands or put up a binder, and you knock on this quote unquote door, knock, 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 and they're pretend to be a mom and dad. And at the beginning of the week, they're pretty nice to you. So you're going to get sit down, you quote, so you're like, hi, are you the mom? And you have to role play, right? As the week
Mhm.
progresses, though, they start throwing more objections. They start giving you some more curveballs, so that way you're more prepared. But the reality check, there's a reason it's called the reality check, because they pick specific DSMs, and so they'll put a DSM in the middle of the circle, and then everybody makes a circle on the outside in the entire org. Sometimes it's like 40 kids, and nobody knows that these 3 kids are going to get selected. Nobody at this from a first year standpoint, they have no idea. And the
Yeah.
person in the middle of the circle is a DSM, and their job is to be as brutally realistic as what the actual job is. And for people who are about to say, "Oh my god, that's so tough," no, the book field is way fucking harder. So it's actually, they should do this from the beginning, really. But anyway, so the way they'll call out the name of the first kid, and then Steven. All right, so Steven goes, and what they have to do is they got to go run around the circle, come up to the quote unquote door that the DSM is holding, and they proceed to shred people
They rip them a new
apart.
asshole. It's like you stand there and get the worst objections you could ever think about
Get
getting
the fuck out of my
from
face!
knocking,
And you're like,
yeah, from knocking on a door, like the
now here's the
nightmare.
best part. Now here's the best part. Sometimes it's not always in a circle. Sometimes it's like a straight line, or they got to go back and forth. But whatever. But they don't really know, the kids that are doing this. Nobody in that's the first year knows, other than to run around in a circle, what's about to happen. It's not like
Right.
they explain any of this to you.
They don't
They just
explain
go, all right,
anything.
everybody circle up. They don't know, it's not on the schedule, nothing. Everybody circle up. All right, we're gonna do role play. I'm gonna select kids, and if it's you, my quote unquote driveway is just going around the circle. So just go around the circle and then come back and knock on a door until you get into the house. And
Well,
you're thinking
also,
this is gonna be like what you've expected so far, where you're like getting into
yeah.
doors regularly, quote unquote
Well,
regularly.
there's also the aspect where they bring in a completely new person that you've never seen before, and they
Yes,
build them up.
a
They're
different
like,
a
"Oh,
different
this
DSM.
this DSM sold this many books, blah 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 blah," and they're a badass at their job. So you're gonna
And they
approach
did, because they're
them.
DSMs.
Exactly.
And so,
So
for example, if it's Amy Pagosi, which I fucking love Amy Pagosi, but also Amy Pagosi is
scary woman.
a badass, hard ass.
She
Like,
is.
she's the kind of the person where
Can
if
be.
you heard that she was lost in the woods in Alaska, you're like, I feel sorry for the bears. Like,
Yeah.
she's like tough. And she's such a good actress, so she should go to Hollywood, because when she does her reality checks and she just starts shitting on kids, it is so.
I
Now,
think
as a manager, you're like, this is awesome.
this is so funny. Like, you have, as a manager, you have to keep a straight face the whole time, and it's the hardest thing ever. But these first years and all of their faces when they're seeing, like, if they're in the circle or running around the circle, I've never had to run around the circle, but I was like, remember feeling like, oh my gosh,
Hopefully, they
this
don't pick
is
me
so
next,
bad. I feel bad for this kid, and hopefully they don't pick me next.
because you don't know, and that's what I'm saying. So
No.
you watched Amy do this, which is fucking brutal. Virgie Sanford, she's like the sweetest woman.
Mhm.
But I watched her do reality checks, and it was so intense.
Get you.
Oh my god, brutal. So, and again, for those people who after listening to this description are going, oh my gosh, that's so mean. No, that's nothing. That is, they do that for 15 to 20 minutes per kid, so it's an hour, and it's about 15 to, so no,
Man, was it that long?
what they say is nothing compared to the shit that you face when you go to the real book field and you knock on doors for 14 hours. Nothing. So don't. We all went through it. It's
Yeah.
okay. And I'm sorry for those of you who forgot about that, and remember, and are
Are
maybe
you all
hopefully laughing
triggered
about it.
now?
What a time. So
Yeah.
you watched the reality check with Amy. Wow.
Mhm.
What
It was a time for sure. I just
a
remember feeling, man, I just remember feeling so much more than physical, like physically what happened during sales school. I'm like, yeah, the emotional roller coaster. But
it's
I felt like I was kind of prepared, just a little bit prepared for what I was going to face. Um, but my first summer, I was just like, buy the book. Of course, I took everything they said at sales school for like exactly what I needed to and applied
Mhm.
it. And it was an okay summer. I think I sold like 1,300 units though. So
Okay.
I was like working my ass off though. I worked my fucking face off. I'd never worked that hard in my life. And geez, that was just honestly like, oh my gosh, I'll never do that again. And I'll hopefully never need to do that again. But like I learned a lot and how much just how much I'm like reading all the descriptions at the bottom. I'm like, oh, okay. That's what that means.
Oh.
Sorry, ADHD moment.
Very
Um,
good.
just what tenacity and consistency can get you, and forming the right habits. I'm like, holy shit, I did that, and I had never sold anything in my life before. So it's a really
It's
amazing
crazy.
thing. Mm-hmm.
It really is. That feeling when you leave the bank after deliveries and you start driving back to Nashville. Checkout is a different feeling, but like when
Yeah.
you go back towards the company, we're like, it can't hurt me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
done.
I'm free. I'm free, bitches.
And you look at that rearview mirror like, did I
Did I
really
really fucking do that?
just do that?
Oh
Holy
my
shit, man.
gosh. And it feels like forever when you're on the book field. And it
Yeah.
also feels like no time at all.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely.
so yeah, and then I did it 3 more fucking times. So
Well, yeah,
you
okay.
know,
So
you know,
why? How
why
did you
did I
decide
do
you
it?
wanted to come back?
Well, so it's always this, I'm sure it's always the story of like, I didn't get what I came for my first summer, but honestly, like I did low key. I just wanted to keep developing those skills because it's not like you're ever done growing. I've heard that one
Right.
before. But honestly, to 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 be frank, I feel like all of my experiences with Southwestern off the book field, like at events and just in between times in school, were some of like my most formative times. It's like the book field
Yeah.
was gosh, I'm trying to think of a really good metaphor for this, but like the time when I had no time to process anything. It was like go 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 operations mode. We don't have time to think. And then later during the year I process all my trauma. No, I'm just kidding. It's not
No,
necessarily
no,
trauma, but
it is.
like
No, it is. It is. It's
it's
okay.
like, okay, I see where I learned this skill this summer and what now I'm different in how I think about this one thing that I'm approaching, whether it's an assignment or a relationship with a friend or a relationship with a guy or any of this stuff. Oh, I have too many stories about that. It's honestly like some of the things that I remember the most are like my relationships with book guys, to be completely
Of your
honest.
career?
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
Andres,
Is that going to be a ponytail or is that a story for another time?
it can be a ponytail.
Oh, I
I'll
didn't mention this, but for people who don't know, and this is for you as well, if it involves another person, and since we don't have the information for this, we
right.
just
We're not
call
gonna
them
say the
Mort. We call them Mort. So
Mort.
Mort 1, Mort 2,
That's
Mort
so
3. If
funny.
we go into that. Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
so
Okay.
for your information, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're
Um,
saying that's what you remember the most? Like out of all the that's
because
interesting.
I've had my second summer I had just like how they don't prepare you for everything in sales school, and it's like this is a all of the what is it, all of the bad things that could happen to you. What's that list called? It's like
Is it
the
the shit
shit
list?
list.
No.
The shit list,
No,
I want
that's
to call
after.
it the
The
shit
shit list
list.
is after. The shit list is after when you're like, this is everything I did that like I wasn't
Oh
supposed to.
yeah, that's right. It's like the list that of all of the
Yeah.
neg stuff that can happen to you while you're
Yeah,
on the book
Vet's the one
field.
that came up with this, I think. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, I'm trying to
77
remember.
points, and it's like this could happen. These are things that have happened to people that,
Right.
your
We
car breaks
have
down
we
or
have a
your
listener right now
HQ
who's
kicked you out.
probably like, yeah, we have a listener right now who's probably like screaming what it is, but we're just not hearing you.
Yeah,
Um,
they're gonna message me.
so
They're gonna message me
that
later and be like,
write it
"You
in your
idiot."
review that we don't know what we're talking about. Um,
Yeah.
no, so like
Just leave us
72
a shit
things,
review.
right? 72 things that you should, you'll probably experience, like a red light special, a flat tire, the usual suspects. And I was like so prepared. I didn't have anything that crazy happen my first summer. I maybe had to replace some tires and stuff and, things like that. But my second summer,
Oh
what
boy.
happened to me was probably 0.01% of a chance of something ever happening to a book person happening. And I'm sure everybody says something like that. But
No. Well, hold on.
that
Is this so? We're going into the story right now, or is this a ponytail that we're saying that we're?
oh, we can save the ponytail. Well, I guess are we kind of towards the end here where I'm supposed
No,
to be
it's your
talking
call.
about my
No,
Southwestern? Okay.
no, no.
Well, I can
It's your
kind of
call.
go into it. And
Yeah,
I
if you want
think
to tell it now, you can. I'm just saying, just remember that like the juicy stories are at the end, so people like
oh,
enjoy. So it's but if it's now, fuck it, we're here right now. So let's go.
okay.
Let's just give me. So what?
I
This
feel
is
like,
a 1 in 1,000 chances. We were saying
yeah, guys, you're
0.01%.
gonna get so much out of this episode. I feel like I'm about to change the vibe so much. So that's a disclaimer. Like, no, I'm serious. Like,
Oh shit.
disclaimer. This, this vibe will shift. So, and I don't want, I mean, I'll preface that it's now something that I'm aware, like, I have so much compassion for myself at the time going through a situation like this. And
Hmm.
it made me an adult, one. It was like the, what we call, that coming of age story, but it happens for me in like a period of a month. Uh,
Shit.
for, for, um, for a person. So, um, man, my right before my second summer, I y'all, man, do we talk about sex on this podcast?
We can. We have before.
Okay, cool. I'm like, am I gonna be the
Yeah.
first one?
You'll be one of the unique ones because people think it's a taboo topic, but again, this
Yeah,
is our job is to help you share your experience, and if part of that experience
sure.
involves
Okay.
sex, then I'm
So
not telling
we're
anybody to
not
tell you not to do that.
consummating this podcast with the talk about sex. So
Yeah.
there's, I mean, this Mort book kid that I was, sleeping with in college at the time, and um he sold books many years before I was just a first year coming into my second summer, pretty much. So I left for my second summer. I was out there on the book field, um, being a manager and, dealing with the stress of being a B contract and kind of this new world of,
Right.
how that works, leading an HQ, um, and just, trying to be a duck, which is just keeping
Yeah.
your cool about
Under
you at all times.
but
But I'm
underwater, you're like
underwater. I'm freaking the fuck
help,
out
help,
right
help, 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 help. Yeah.
now. So I remember this very vividly. We'll just dive into the weeds at this particular week. Um, and before that, I honestly like had kind of been feeling funny. I had been feeling tired, really crazy symptoms of like eating weird things, like a ton of cream cheese on a bagel, which I'll never
Oh
do
boy.
in a normal situation circumstance. And the smell of eggs
Oh.
was so repulsive. And I was like, I love eggs.
Oh.
This is just such a weird thing. I'm sure y'all are getting set up for what's about to come.
I'm not
But
gonna get ahead of you, but I'm pretty sure I know.
mhm,
Oh boy.
exactly. So
Oh, shit.
um week 4, it was Wednesday, and I was running around. I was being followed that day by my roommate, who was a first year, and we were in Tennessee. And y'all, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, the year before had like cats everywhere, and I could not explain why they had so many fucking cats in that state. Only that state. I sold in 4 different states, and they had so many fucking cats. I was pulling kittens out of my sample case, like at every door. The country of Pennsylvania. Anyway, oh, I saw some crazy shit there too. This is a side tangent story where I literally saw a dog like have sex with a cat. I was at a door.
This
I
is the
was
pony dog cat tale.
man, this is just one that came out of the woodwork in my brain. And I was like,
This
that
happens all. This one
that
here happens a lot
scarred
where
me.
people think of
That
the stories
scarred
later on.
me. I was at this country door in Pennsylvania, sorry. And
Oh, shit.
there was nobody home, I found out. And I'm just there and I'm like, look at all these fucking animals. They're so nasty. And it smelled so bad. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. And man, I was there and this just happened. I don't want to even go into detail. Like I already said it, but I was like, you know what? I'm so glad it's week 12. I'm going the fuck home and never coming back to this place
Pennsylvania is a weird
where
fucking
I'm
place, man.
jeez, it is so weird. Anyway, back to Tennessee, second summer. shit gets even weirder.
So
No.
Wednesday, you have a first year following you.
Yes, Wednesday
Holy
of a
shit.
first year following me. It's like 3 p.m. I go up to this door, um, and we're in the country. It's like populated country though. So, you can kind of see the houses from where you stand at somebody's doorstep. And I the house across the street definitely had kids, but they weren't home. So I was just like kind of mapping and getting pre-approached for gravy later. So I went to this house that looked pretty like rough, but it wasn't like anything that looked out of the ordinary for the area I was in. So I went up and knocked on the door and nobody really answered, but then a huge pack of dogs came running out from the backyard and I was like, "Oh fuck." And I like dogs. Dogs are cool. But these dogs, that was not the move. This was not the door I needed to be knocking on at all. And so I was like, okay,
Shit.
well, shit. And so I was trying to get out of there and I told my first year to like go back to the car. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out right now. And I'm like, you don't need to freak out. They're just a bunch of rabid dogs. I have a binder and a sample case. I'll be fine. No, I get bit in the leg by some pit bull mom dog that comes out of nowhere. And I'm like, okay, that hurt a lot. Run back to my car and it still hurts. So I'm like, I gotta check this out. So I'm like bleeding profusely in my
Oh
leggings. And I'm like,
my
okay.
God.
And first year sitting there, it's like her fourth week on the book field period. And she's just not used to it. You know what I mean? It's all like real crazy. And she's like, oh my God, you're bleeding. Ah. And I'm like, we'll be fine. Just hand me some band-aids. I've got them in the glove compartment. I'll just some Neosporin band-aids. Like, we're going back.
What up, ponies? Off schedule story really quick. I wanted to shout out Quentin Roberts' episode number 140. In it, he talks about how he built such a fantastic culture at the company, Cardinal Senior Benefits. If you want more information on that, click the link below or go check out that episode. Back to work. Yo, everybody. Time to get off schedule real quick. Guys, if you still like the grind and maybe you have an opportunity to go make a shit ton of money by doing so, actually real money, make sure you guys hit up EnLight.Energy. Alex Black is in Florida and they are crushing it. They are also able to work with you in any state that you're in. But it's pretty badass because the solar industry is blowing up and there is nothing stopping you from making like, well, well over six figures to feed your family or your dogs or just you if you're alone. Sorry about it. Talk to yourself.
To work. And you know how much I didn't want to work after that. But we were going to do it anyway. I was limping the rest of the day. I was having her, it was nice because then she was going to knock on some doors. But kind of just like ended the day there at 9 p.m. I had like one sale that day at the very end of the day. It was awful. And at least it was like a core 4, but it was like, ugh, what an awful day. So we went home. I was on the phone with my friend and I was like, I guess I have to go to the clinic or something tomorrow and get antibiotics because I have no idea what is going on with this dog. And I'm like, I hate being quote unquote off schedule though. That was like off schedule to me was like
Gut wrenching.
with
Yeah.
the gut wrenching to
Oh,
like a
yeah.
goody two shoes Sally Southwestern girl like me who couldn't even. And I was just so I feel like the word, it's not my favorite word to use, but indoctrinated into this like, you need to stay. Mark Rao, we need to stay on schedule. Kind of like
Yeah,
schedule is your
you're out
lifeline.
there. The Kool-Aid is as red as your blood
Exactly.
from
So
the
I was like,
dog
I don't
bite.
even want to go to this. I don't even want to go take care of this dog bite. But it was like, we hope it doesn't need stitches kind of a dog bite.
Yeah,
So
and
I,
like rabies, like
yeah,
I
all
don't
those
know.
things. And it's Tennessee. And those
Exactly.
dogs looked real nasty. So I actually did not go the next day because I was like,
All
I
right.
can't do that. I just went back to work. And then on Friday, I was convinced by my friend who was going to just talk some sense into me, like, hey, you should just go. So on
Yeah.
Friday morning, I went to an urgent care clinic in Tennessee. And I was getting my leg checked out, and she's like, okay, great. Well, you just need some antibiotics. And while I was there, I was like, maybe I should also do this one thing. Can I take a pregnancy test?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. And I'm like here for my internship. I'm talking to the nurses too. I'm like, yeah, I'm here for my college internship. And like, it's just, yeah, I'm really excited. It's going really well. And I did this like one time before. It's like, I'm really happy to be here in Tennessee. And I'm really excited to work all summer. So I'm sitting there in the room, and the nurse comes back in with my test results. So she like peeps her head in, and she says, so I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but it's positive.
Oh shit.
I was like,
What the fuck?
My brain dropped into my butt.
Quick, 3 positives.
It's exactly that. Right after my brain dropped into my butt, that's what I was saying to myself. I'm like, oh. So then I go dizzy, and I'm like, and she's like, okay, so this is what we do next. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I need to go lay down.
Forget this dog bite.
Yeah, at that point, everything came into focus. You see, it was like this, oh my freaking God, I am pregnant and I am on the book field, and everything else kind of falls to the wayside of importance, right?
Life gives you perspective when you just in the funniest ways. We'll just say funniest because there's so many other words we could have used there. But
Yes.
strangest, weirdest, impromptu.
The craziest ways. And I was like, oh shit. And I'm like,
what?
I instantly feel overwhelmed. I instantly feel sick. I instantly feel angry and confused and alone. Those are all of the feelings. Like, I've never felt all of those feelings at once, but in a moment like that, you kind of do. And I was 20 years old. Mm-hmm.
What a cocktail.
20 years old at the time. And I was like, okay. So I get back in my car, and I'm like, maybe I should tell somebody about this. Or maybe I should just stay on schedule. I go back to work.
Oh my God, no.
And
no
I'm like,
way. No fucking way, dude.
Straight up. I'm like, no,
that's not good. That's
like you see what Mark Rao and all of the Morts.
We'll get back to this. We'll get back to this. There's a asterisk right there that we need to come back and visit as to how shitty the fact that had to be the case for you.
Yeah.
But besides the obvious, well, you know what I'm talking about. So we'll come back to that in a sec, because I want you to continue your story. But just the fact that you felt like that's what you needed to do at that point is fucto ridiculous.
You know what solves all problems? Knocking on
the next door. Yeah. The answer to every single problem lies behind the next door. So what is that? Like, what is it? You go to the next door and it's it's rich single male looking for a lady who's a mom.
No, actually, I had a pretty decent day. It was no, I'm serious. I had a decent ass day. It wasn't my best day, but it was like, I actually don't care. It was the most
We'll deal with this later.
Yeah, it was the most genuine buying atmosphere I ever had.
You'll have to deal with it in at least 8 months.
Like, yeah, exactly. Don't have to deal with that right now. I'm here for my internship. This is gonna ruin everything. That was literally how I thought about it. I'm like, fuck. This is annoying. This isn't in my selling 101. Nobody ever told me that this could maybe be a thing. I mean, obviously they did at some point.
That is not in the 77-point checklist. It is not.
No, it's not. I looked. And I also looked for guidance on the situation, because, you can always get coaching.
Bad PR.
Pregnancy.
Roommate quits. Having a baby. No, that's not on there.
Right.
Number 78.
If you find yourself pregnant on the book field, what do you do? That was the question I was posed with, and I was all like, I can also maybe get coaching on this. One thing, no, nobody knows how to coach you through that. Is also what I learned, which is understandable.
Shit,
Now
man.
knowing what I know, I'm like, how do you? That's a personal preference, by the way, because the next question was, well, do I keep it, or do I
Well,
have
yeah.
summer number 2? Or is there an option in between?
Which is where the story would get thick, right? This is where
Very thick.
this is where it goes from uh like funny, if you will, if like people have been laughing because of the dog bites and the but
Mhm.
to like this is the meat of the whole situation here. So what
Yeah, like,
happens now?
this is where the disclaimer really comes in, like, this is not we've talked about so many really fun things, but this was the most unfun thing I've ever had to fucking do.
Mm,
Um, but it taught me, like, I mean, I'm not who I am today without this experience at all. So, um, I for the next week was trying to figure out what I was going to decide to do. I was like, am I staying? Well, actually, it wasn't even an option in my head if I'm staying on the book field. I was like, oh, I need to figure out how to fix this problem. And that was how I thought about it. I'm like, this is just a problem. It's an obstacle. How do I get over the obstacle? Um, which as like a 20-year-old, who just came off of sales school, really, and this is ruining my habits phase right now, going to these doctor's appointments and stuff. Um, it's not setting
and
me up for a great summer.
you still hadn't told anybody at this point.
Oh no. I sat on it for a day actually. No, you're right. I sat on it for a day. I on Saturday called Mort the book guy
Oh,
and told him exactly what I told you in the way I told it, so
Papa
that
Mort.
he could deduce what the deal was. And he was great. He was really supportive about it. And really just like, well, it's up to you what you want to do. But obviously, no guy wants to get a call like that.
Yeah, there's a Chris Rock bit. I'm gonna try to spice this up with some comic relief because this is an intense moment.
This is very
But
intense.
Chris Rock talks about this. He goes, "There's two ways guys receive the news that their partner is pregnant. One is, oh my god, you're having a baby. I'm gonna be a father. This is so exciting. We get to name it. Oh my god, I'm so proud." And then the other option is, so what you gonna do? And that's that's the only two ways it can react, and
Yep.
that's how it sounds like it went.
Mhm. It
So what are
was,
you gonna do?
he had been selling books for so long. It was like, yep, I'm a duck now again with this B contract who is now pregnant, and it's my fault in a way. It's
Right.
both of our faults, but it's
It's
also
y'all
like,
tangoed.
yeah. So, um, well, he was really great and supportive about it. He kept up with me, and I kind of just was going through it too. But really, every person I told, and I kept it from my OL. Honestly, I didn't.
Yeah, I was like, did you tell him? So you told
I
him, and then
The
nothing.
thing I didn't. I told one other person, like the person I was closest to in that org, who we were actually working in a dynasty org as two Eagle Blitz people on the same. Like we were
I
both
see.
Florida State kids, and then went and sold in Tennessee with a dynasty org. So I didn't feel super connected to that organization and those people so much. But the person I was closest to was my, my right hand Eagle Blitz man, um, who was selling books with me out there. And I told him, and it was also this situation of like, well, what are you going to do? I think you should do this, but it's not really my decision. And really, every time I told somebody, and I was also like asking for help. It was a really like
Right.
just really intense place to be because I wanted guidance so bad, but nobody could give it to me. And that's what I mean to say, going back to like, I grew up in a month really, really fast. Because all my
Right.
life I had been, I'm a little kid, your parents guide you, everybody guides you, but now like you're in a very adult situation, making a very adult decision. So that week was a roller coaster, and I tried to hide it from everybody. I was like, I didn't want to tell any upper management. I didn't want to tell anybody in my org. They ended up finding out, but it was this like not necessarily a shame thing, but I didn't want to sound like a victim. And I had an excuse. It was like, I do not want to be making an excuse right now, kind of a mentality. So I don't want to tell anybody because they're automatically going to think, oh, that is really a crazy situation and you probably have a good excuse. And I'm like, I don't have an excuse. I have an excuse like anybody else, that we're all here and we all decided to be here and there's no way I'm going home because I'm also a manager. I can't go home. So
right.
that's
so crazy. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know.
I
I don't know.
I know. Just the craziness happening around me in my own brain and trying to make a decision with so little to go off of. I feel like I was just a kid. And I'm still a kid, but there's an aspect.
So crazy.
Yeah. So that next week, my roommate ended up going home. I was like, so it was like, what, Thursday of the next week. I was still trying to decide if I wanted to like get an abortion or basically finish the summer, maybe have the baby, going through this like, this is a really big decision to make when I'm
adoption, motherhood, dealing
emotions
with more
all over the
dad,
place.
Papa Mort.
So our breakfast spot in Sevierville, Tennessee was a Cracker Barrel because they're open early, and that was the only place close to our HQ. And so I remember sitting there. This was like the most amazing and also like worst moment of my book career, where I was at the lowest point, I feel like, of like one of the lowest points of my life. And my roommate had just gone home. So I was sitting there alone at a Cracker Barrel, pregnant and selling books. I know. I'm sorry that this is just like, this is
no. I'm with you. This is. I feel
okay.
bad.
This is you empathizing.
Like, I understand. Yeah.
I don't want people to feel pain when they hear this story.
No, what makes the show work is people's vulnerability and even, I mean, I can't relate to any of this, right? Because first of all, penis, which doesn't give birth. That's not really how. I live in Portland, so I don't even know what to call what that means. But
right.
I am not a birthing individual, is what they would say here.
Mm-hmm.
So from even that standpoint of like learning that you're pregnant at a young age, no idea. From a standpoint of doing that in the book field, still no idea. But from a standpoint of like feeling alone and how lonely the book field can be, and then on top of that, I can't imagine. But that's where I'm trying to like really, I mean, I'm sure people listening are like, oh, I mean, I know what it's like to be lonely in the book field, but I don't know what it's like to be lonely in the book field and be in this situation in the context that you're in, and that's brutal.
It's a really helpless place to be. And like, there's structure to books. Like, you're supposed to follow a schedule, and even though it's lonely, like it's lonely and really emotionally trying, but then being lonely on top of like nobody can help you through this. There's no structure to this. And that's where I've come from my whole life. It's like there's structure to everything and we can rely on that. Follow the system. There's no system to that. So thank you for saying that. It helps me, like, I guess, continue the story without feeling like I'm, this is be like a funny time.
This is no. This is not my podcast. This is your time. This is, again, this serves as a microphone for our guests, not for me. I just catch you up where you were when you forget where you went. That's really all I do on here. So go on.
Well,
you're at the Cracker Barrel all alone.
Yes, at the Cracker Barrel
Man,
all
that's
alone. My
intense.
roommate had just gone home, and I remember I was on my iPad scheduling a Planned Parenthood appointment. And I was like, I just started crying. I just started crying. And
Shit.
I was I was like, I find myself in a place where I'm crying a lot just as a really emotional person. Um but this hit different. And I went I was like, well, okay. Eventually kind of wiped all the tears, got up and was going over to pay, and this older gentleman um comes up to me and is like, "Hey, I don't know what you're going through, but I just want to pray over you right now and say, whatever it is, God has you and He's watching you and in it with you. Um, and you have that, whatever it is that you're going through." And then he paid for my breakfast. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was such an amazing like moment that I had with a stranger who was just like, "Man, I see how dismal this is for you from a distance. I have no idea how bad it is, but just that
Mm-hmm.
people are still there to
Kindness of the
support." Yeah, the
strangers.
kindness of a stranger, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to work that day. And I think a couple days that week I was following, just trying to figure out what I was going to do. But I ended up getting an abortion that summer. And mhm, yeah, that's the
Wow.
conclusion I came to. And it was, I mean, it changed my perspective on everything for the rest of the summer. And I got the abortion and stayed selling books and
That's
finished.
bananas.
Hmm. So, I
Well,
mean,
and let me say that. Can I say something real
yeah,
quick? Because
absolutely.
this is actually the first time this topic has come up on the show, and this is an important
Hmm.
moment for people listening because we have people who listen from all sorts of different backgrounds and
Right.
political opinions and stuff. And I'm sure we have listeners who are pro-choice. I'm sure we have listeners who are pro-life. And honestly, like, sorry, first of all, if you're hearing this and this is upsetting you and we lose you as a
Yeah.
listener, I mean that's on you. This is not about you. And more than anything, everybody has their opinions on what is the right thing to do in politics and what is the wrong thing to do in politics, and it's almost as divisive as it can be, whether it's about COVID or it's about you know the abortion rights or abortion laws, or it's about whatever, red, blue. It doesn't like that shit doesn't fucking matter because this show isn't political. And whether you think that this is something that was wrong or right, I don't really give a shit. We're talking to a human being that was going through a human experience who had to make a difficult choice at an age that was very difficult to make in a place that's as tough as it can be mentally and emotionally already. And so, if you are pro-life and you're cheering, I don't give a shit. I don't care how this falls into your ears. What I would call upon is just to be able to have people who can have compassion and empathy for a person who was suffering and has to deal with whatever decision that they made, right? So just throwing that out there because that's not something that we don't involve politics, and we don't involve, I mean, we've
Hmm.
talked about politics and stuff on here, but that's not what we're about. We're about giving you your voice to talk about what you had to go through and what you've learned and the things that you experience and how you have dealt with those experiences through your life. So uh, I'm happy that you are able to share this story, and I'm hoping that you feel safe to share it,
Yeah.
because that's what this place is, and that's what are aiming to be. We're not here to stick a political agenda down anybody's throats, in or out. We're just here to give you a voice and a place to talk openly and freely. So,
Totally.
um,
Thank you for saying that.
I just wanted to interject with that because I feel like at this point people are going to be this is
All
something that
over.
can be polarizing, and
Yeah.
so and if it is, fuck it. But at the end of the day, it's not about them. It's not about them. This is about you, and this is your voice, and this is your experience,
Hmm.
and it's a human experience like everybody else's. So
Right.
go ahead.
And something important that came out of this, honestly, is that it's part of my Christian testimony.
Mm.
That not necessarily, I actually, what's so interesting about this, and I'm glad you're saying that, this is just my experience from my perspective, the decision I had to make at a moment in time, that I think a lot of these listeners are going to have empathy for that, because like everybody's made a mistake, everybody's made a choice
Yeah.
that they're like, oh shit, shouldn't have done that, or like they made a choice and maybe they feel bad about it, but it honestly ended up being the best choice they could make with the information they had. And everybody's been in a position like that, and I don't want to make light of the fact that this was the situation I was in, but like it's a similar concept. Like I had this much information at this time to make this choice. And so that's really all it comes down to. And what I when I tell that story, I've told this story many times to so many different people. It helps me heal from that story. It helps me heal from this traumatic experience that I had to go through, and like just not get over it, right? That's the wrong thing. That's the wrong word or the wrong phrase, but like
Move
it
on
helps
from
me
it.
heal and yeah, move
Yeah.
on in a way that's healthy and also empowering to other people, because I've actually found that telling this story helps connect people more than it does polarize people. Where I don't know how many other girls have found themselves on the book field and pregnant. I think that I'm like a very, very, very small percentage of people, but they exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've encountered other women just in a similar situation, maybe not selling books, but my age, who had to make that kind of decision. And me talking about it to them was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe you can talk about that. That's such a deep wound for me. Like, how do you just say that with, the
Mm-hmm.
composure that you have walking through all these details and stuff? And it's just because I've learned how to tell it and cope with it and make it an empowering thing for other people, rather than this thing we need to hide and be shameful about. So
Yeah.
it's kind of my
That's brilliant. And you're serving as a, because again, it's not about the abortion, and it's not about whether that was right or wrong. That's nothing to do with what we're talking about here. We're talking about
Mhm.
being in a place and in a situation that's impossible,
Yeah.
right? But time goes on, and decisions are made, and those decisions don't define who we are. Those things don't define what we become and who we can be and what we can learn, right? And how we can change. That's
Hmm.
later. That comes after, right? So
Yeah.
you said it yourself. You're doing the best with what you know and what you have. But there's other people who have had to make impossible choices outside of a situation like yours, or just as difficult for them in that
Yeah.
situation. And it's kind of like in the same way where it's like people, when a school shooting happens, people, the NRA people and the anti-NRA people start coming out, and that's what they talk about, and nobody talks about the victims, nobody talks about the people
Yeah.
that lost someone. And it's like, why aren't we talking about that? That's what we're talking about here. You did something, whether, again, doesn't matter if people think it was the right thing or the wrong thing to do. What matters is that you had to make this impossible decision, and understanding and empathizing with that is first. Empathizing with the people that lost something. You lost something, right?
Hmm.
You lost
Yeah.
your childhood, right? You lost your ability to face things in a way that was like different, like the way that you might become a mother, how, when you
Yeah.
become a mother in the future, if you want to become a mother, like this
Yeah.
changes so much. And that's really the important part, that you're okay and that you're growing and learning from it and understanding yourself
Mhm.
through it. um that's what matters. So
Definitely.
I can't agree with you more on the fact that it's just like, I this is what happened to me, and this is
Yeah.
my story, and
This is
that's
the
and that's and
impossible
that's okay.
choice.
And
Totally.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you
Like
for saying
that
all that.
feeling how hard it is to have to be in that position, That's what we need to focus on. That's what I focus on.
Mhm.
Regardless of how I feel or don't feel about it, nobody cares. It's not about me. So it's about you. So,
Sure.
wow, that's intense. And you
And
finished the summer. Holy cow.
finish the summer. Yep.
And you
Yep.
still went back.
Mhm. Call me a masochist.
Damn Kool-Aid is extra sugary.
Yeah, it was for
God
me.
damn.
But it did start to lose its flavor after a little while, and I especially after that moment, I'm like, that was such a pivotal moment in Noelle thinking for herself, in really owning my own decisions and being an adult, and I think to an extent, it's influenced how quickly I've quit my job, started my own business. Like, it's changed my entire outlook on how I do things. I'm like, yes, that was such an empowering, while albeit devastating and empowering moment for me. Um, I feel like it's just shaped me to be like an extra badass human. Um,
Yeah, I'd
so
agree.
it's just a crazy, crazy thing.
Wow. Fuck, man. That's bananas.
Man, this could be
I,
like
I thought
this
going to
is
the
2 podcasts.
I thought going to the movies out when I was off schedule was tough. That's fucking that's intense.
That's a tough time too.
You know, that's intense.
Yeah.
Um well, I mean, I guess this is unique for us. So but I'll leave it up to you. I mean, we can continue chat about more Southwestern stuff and more ponytails. I feel
Yeah.
like that was a
That was really the story that I came on here to tell if we were gonna
good.
talk about anything book related, because honestly, in comparison, in my experience, everything else kind of like,
Yeah, nothing else fucking mattered. Big customers or big
yeah.
weeks.
I
If you
had a
hit more or
huge
not, who gives a fuck?
yeah. Oh, I had a huge I think I sold a bag that summer for the first time, but I don't even like that was just, oh yeah.
Yeah. Sizzlers,
Like,
nothing, none of that shit matters
no,
anymore.
none of that. I turned into an adult that summer, y'all. Man.
You grew
So
up. Wow.
so yeah.
Goddamn. So let's do this. Just so we can like, because I feel like that story needs to be like that. I feel like that's a story. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we can do like a quick rapid fire session, and then we can put a bow on
Sure.
it for now.
Yeah.
And maybe even save some of those extra stories that you might have from the book field when Zeno comes on the air with
Yeah.
us to talk a little bit more about once we've launched Unicorn Studios. And so,
Totally.
um, so does that make sense? Do you think that would
Yeah,
be,
that's
because
fine.
it just feels wrong to be like, all right, now tell me a funny Sizzler story.
No.
Like,
I don't really have funny Sizzler stories.
or you
Uh
know what I'm saying? Like, it just
I
sounds
was
weird to
such
be
a
like, all right, tell me about the time Mrs. Jones dropped a bunch of money, or like that you know,
I know. I knew that this would happen telling that story, and as long as everybody feels okay to move on, I'm also in that place.
I
So,
mean, yeah, I'm just saying it's like in a way of like giving the magnitude of your story respect.
yeah.
It makes sense to me to be like, we're gonna let that be
Mhm.
the moment of of this episode, right? And to give that
Space.
space, to give it
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah.
I think it's important to me, but I guess it's your story, so it's up to you. You know,
No, yeah. I didn't really anticipate saying anything after I dropped that bomb because I just like being dramatic like that and then leaving the room.
mic drop. You can't
It's
drop
like
your mic; it's hanging.
I'll
So
just cause a scene and then step
yeah,
out and let all of you deal with the emotional turmoil that happens after that.
that makes sense. I'm with you. So here, we'll do these quick rapid fire
Sure.
questions, and then we'll call it. And then now I can't wait to hear some more when you're back on the air in a couple, like a month or two.
Sure.
So okay, here we go. And this is some that I've asked before, some I haven't, but we have a list now. We finally kept track of it. Thanks, Amy, for doing that. So it'll be just a quick boom boom, like a rapid fire. So you ready for this? This is a rapid
Mhm.
fire pony stories or pony answers. Okay, favorite territory, whether it's a county or city.
Tennessee was I sold in like Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. There was no prettier state and no prettier place to sell
Oh,
books. I
you
loved
haven't
it.
been to Montana.
No.
Favorite turf between like country, big break, trailer parks, suburbs.
I loved country. I loved country turf. I loved the people there. And man, I just have amazing memories of driving through cornfields, listening to an amazing song, and just being like, yeah, this is the shit driving between houses. So,
I feel it. I fuck with it.
mhm.
That's usually the most common answer. Favorite advanced sales tape.
Man, uh, I feel like I just listened to Matt Atchison so much that that's the one that stuck with me.
I'm
Um,
scooping. I'm scooping. Aloha. This is Matthew Atchison from Yvette's office. It's a great. He's got a couple of them, but
yeah, I'm not remembering. Oh, gosh, it's like the first one I ever got from him, or from sales school. I think it was talking about the Bronco and the
yeah,
skunk, maybe the
yeah.
dogs and the West Virginia. Yeah, all
Yeah,
of that.
he's got some good ones. Oh
Mhm.
hell yeah. What was your favorite HQ?
Favorite HQ. Man, I feel like it was my third summer in Wisconsin. Um, I just had an HQ with my first year and a bunch of other girls, and we had just an awesome host family, and they had a beautiful house and were just so gracious to let us stay there.
Oh,
Actually, Jason Stone's parents, Ken and Judy, they were awesome.
let's
Shout out to
go.
them.
You love a good host family.
Mhm.
Favorite product to sell or to tack on?
I loved the CEA.
Yes,
I just that was like the most valuable product in my opinion,
hundred
um,
percent,
for any family.
hundred
So
percent.
I love
It was
tacking
like
that on.
it was like $300, right? It could have been like
Mhm.
$900. It would have still probably
Yep.
been worth the damn money.
I sold those left and right.
Yeah, I
I
love
loved
tacking those onto like a Core 6 when you have a really sharp kid and maybe not so sharp kid. You're like, oh, these guys would love these either way.
it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Favorite overall summer?
Wisconsin in my third summer.
Let's go.
It was just there was just man, the mosquitoes sucked. Fuck, the mosquitoes sucked so bad in that state. But I had an awesome org, and that made like all the difference. It was just so supportive, and I loved all the first years, and I love all the first years anyway that I've worked with, but that just stuck out to me a lot. That was a really fun org.
You love when you have a good org that's just
Yeah.
cranking. You're like, this is fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yes.
Best sales day.
I think I sold maybe 200 units on a really weird fluke day with 7 customers, and I was always dropping bombs, like I didn't like it all the time, but I was just like not everybody bought from me, but when they did, we're just buying everything. And I had really low cancellations all the time, like across my summers. I always had consistently the lowest cancellations in my org. And I'm like, I don't know why this is, but maybe they just feel bad. So it's nice to sell big packages and also have low cancellations. Because
Hell yeah.
if you have high cancellations with big packages, goodbye.
Bad news. Bad news. And that's hard to do. That tells you that you were doing it right. Because usually that's what it's higher cancellations. You have bigger packages because people have bigger buyer's remorse and something's going wrong there. So
Exactly.
I feel it. I feel it.
Exactly.
And then last but not least, your favorite breakfast spot and why was it that Cracker Barrel?
It was not that Cracker Barrel, but that
Oh,
was the most memorable breakfast spot. My breakfast spot in Wisconsin was great. It was just this mom and pop little. It was
dude,
actually like an ice skating rink that was also a diner. It was weird. They had like
Wisconsin just
ice
treated you
cream.
well.
Yeah, yeah, the dairy state, and so many cows. That place, honestly, I remember the smell of places more than a lot of other things I remember about those places. Um, Pennsylvania was really stinky, like really, really stinky, probably the stinkiest state. Tennessee was not that stinky at all. Wisconsin was pretty stinky because they had cows.
Great.
And Michigan, the least stinky of states. It was beautiful.
It don't
Um,
stink, but you shouldn't go to
don't stink.
Nebraska on the wrong day. If you go to
No,
Nebraska at the right time or place, it's brutal.
so stinky.
They have more cows than people.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Hmm.
It's the worst. Well, damn. All right, that concludes the rapid fire section of our show. And I
Nice.
think on that, I mean, so on that note, I feel like we're at a good opportunity here to say this has been a really, really inspiring, moving, and perspective giving episode for me personally. So hopefully people who are
Mm.
listening in also feel the same way. If not, that's okay too.
If not, it's totally
Insert buying.
fine.
I was here. Hopefully it was you had a blast. Any closing thoughts
Yeah.
before we call this one goodbye?
No, I just appreciate everybody who's listening right now and has stuck with us through the entire thing. That means a lot, and I hope you got a lot of value out of hearing us talk.
That's exactly right. If you guys want to get a hold of Noelle, you can go to Noelle. You can email her at Noelle at Noelle Sporer or Sporer. I know it's Sporer, but I'm
Spore,
just trying to
yeah.
spell it. Sporer. It's like
Spore.
Spore and then an R. For people who are listening, it's on the screen. We'll also probably just include the link of it down below.
Sure.
Or you can just, literally just Google Nicole Sporer and then it's spelled Spore. It's spelled like Sporer, but Sporer.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be on the episode notes as well. If you guys are, again, if you're just listening through and can catch it on the screen. You can get a hold of her if you want to say hi or whatever.
Yeah.
And just keep in touch with us. If you listen in and you made it this far and you're like, hey, I want to learn more about that Unicorn Studios and how you can get a hold of both of us to get your business marketed well, we can do it that way as well. Just get a hold of either of us, leave a comment below. We'll get in touch with you. But on that note, guys, thank you so much. My name is Andres Gamboa. This has been a really incredible episode. Thank you so much, Noelle, for being on with us.
Absolutely. Thank you
We'll
so much.
catch you guys on the next one. This was number 170. Peace out, everybody. Bye.
Peace.